Today is Wednesday, July 24th at 6 p.m. This is a meeting of the Senior Center, Site Selection and Building Committee. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom at meeting ID 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. So I call us to order at 6:04 p.m. Welcome, everyone. So first on our agenda is approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Wonderful. All right. So that brings us to the approval of minutes from the June 10th and June 26th meeting.
I move that we approved the minutes from both of those meetings.
Come on.
Can I do both at once? Okay, from the June 10th meeting.
So you can have a seat in one of those chairs over there or over there. Either one is fine. And there's copies over on the puzzle table of the agenda and the materials we're looking at.
B or B?
B, yeah.
Anybody second?
Second. Oh, I was just gonna say, was there, okay, discussion? Any discussion, revisions, anything like that? All right, all in favor of approving those, that's both sets of minutes. Oh, did you make a motion for them together?
And he suggested I do just one.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, which one is?
June 10th.
June 10th, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. Chair says aye, passes. Right,
And I move that we accept the minutes of June 26th.
any second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, those passes, wow.
Did you read both of them?
I did one of them and Dennis did one of them. Thank you, Dennis. Does anyone want to volunteer to listen to the Zoom meeting? Maybe we could all take turns and doing the minutes from it.
I think that's only fair. Yeah, I'll do these.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn.
As long as I can listen to them.
So, first things, it probably won't be till Friday. It takes, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay to when the recording is available, then I'll forward you the link.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so item number 3 is board vacancy. Dave Grubb did reach out to me and say that just due to a lot of conflicts for his time and competing things, he just didn't feel like he was able to give it the time that it deserved, and he wished us the best of luck. He submitted that to me. In his letter, he said he would submit something directly to Robert and Carly, but since it was such a complete letter, I just forwarded it to them. So I would consider that to be the official resignation. So we do have, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you to Dave for his assistance, especially early on when we were choosing the architect and, helping us get going. But that does leave us with a vacancy. So if anyone, the town website will post it, the vacancy again, we can advertise it. I'll share it on my Facebook page. But if anybody knows of anyone who would like to,
And so do we, has the select board approved, accepted the resignation, or is that? Or
So-
when is, I guess, when's the next select board meeting for them to accept?
So. I'm trying to remember what we did last time. I think that they sort of accepted and appointed at the same meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and I'm not even sure that the select board has to accept it, although it would make sense that they do, but
I think they,
I mean, they appointed us, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they'll probably do that as one business item,
Okay,
if I had to guess. But I can follow up and ask
Yeah.
about that.
I mean, I know that their meetings are few and far between, so if we get it on the next agenda for them, they could move forward.
Right, yeah, because they'll skip a meeting in July and a meeting in August, I think. Yeah, for their summer schedule. So spread the word. You know of anybody who would like to be on it? All right. So that brings us into the meat of tonight's meeting, discussion of the soil data for Groton Harvard Road and Bishop Road sites. And then, unfortunately, Dan is not feeling well this evening, so he did say, I guess the plans that are marked up for the test pits, that's on your drawings, right, where those are? He said, I expect those to be excavated by the 9th. Hoping to do them next week, but the 9th is conservative. He said, I will need to coordinate with you two
Yeah,
because he
yes,
knows
yes.
that you
We'd
guys
like
want to
to be
be
there,
present.
yeah.
So that was his update for those. Did anybody, is there any other information just about the soil piece that we need to discuss?
The, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is to get it done. I'm just, now I'm just on it. The, looking at.
So those are on the drawings, those are,
So
they
we
say
currently
TP.
have, there's 3 test pits. 2 kind of on the perimeter of the building and one right roughly around where the elevator pit will be going.
So, but,
And that's a patio, that's a patio.
Right. so but the location of the test pit seems somewhat different from what I envisioned when we, just kind of where it would be along Groton Harvard Road. Am I disoriented here?
So right, I know this is the top of the floor, right here is
Practice
the
here?
park room.
Move to talk about this.
So this is a steep drop off, which you're standing up, I think.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah,
so
so
the
I was looking at number 6, so.
parking lot is in,
He's
the
saying
parking
this
lot
is
is in towards the triangle.
This
Yes,
is the practice field.
So if it's relative to the test pits, let's talk
Yeah.
about it now. If not, we've got a whole agenda item about the siting and the floor plan.
Oh, okay, so-
So the test pits are
so-
marked in red
Oh,
on those drawings.
Oh, are they? They're.
And for those at home or viewing it online later, we are looking at the document. That people have in front of them is called Air Floor Plans, Air Floor and Site Plans. 7/24/2024. I'm just looking at where the red marks are, that say TP. And are these the sites that you guys picked for that? Okay. And I presume at least for Groton Harvard Road, those spots were picked where they were because there were other ones in the surrounding areas already done from that study from the field,
Yeah.
right?
Perhaps, yeah, there's something out there, but we wanted to understand what's underneath the building, and also we have, we're gonna be doing recharging of stormwater underneath the parking lot, so we need to know what's underneath the parking lot in terms of soil condition and, water table. Very important.
Mr. Cat.
Yeah,
Have these been staked in the field?
we have no idea. It's up to Dan's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I was crazy one.
Yeah.
Is a professional engineer gonna stake this? I'm
No,
sorry.
we're gonna be,
Can you make sure that area?
Dan's going
Dan's
to
gonna be the
stake
one.
them based on our
Dan.
drawings,
This,
and our drawings are by us.
yeah, and I gave him a benchmark, of one of the telephone poles.
okay, so.
Yeah.
gonna be close, but it's.
It's not gonna, yeah, it's not gonna be exact, but it's gonna be the right.
Yeah, he
Pretty
gave us a telephone pole to work off because nobody's got any benchmarks around there. We don't have a formal survey of the site.
I don't know, they just surveyed this right there.
Yeah, well, then hopefully Dan V will give us a benchmark from over there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna work off that.
Because the one I sent Dan a separate file that has all the dimensions and everything.
Okay.
I think it was gonna cover this too much for the meeting. But. Yeah.
So are we ready to talk about exactly the siting?
That's number 6. If that's all for the, I guess the main update there is that the test pits are.
Yeah, next
They're-
week.
oh, next week. So yeah, we're on number 4 right now.
So regarding number 4, the test pits, we're gonna do the parking lots in the buildings, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, just, so it's on.
So
this
right now,
drawing, it's where the-
if I recall right now, right where the parking lot is right now, that's pretty much like a retention pond.
Yes,
Correct.
yes,
So is that naturally routes all the water from the whole school goes into that area?
yeah,
Are we gonna, I know this is off the beaten path, is that gonna be?
it's gonna go into the chambers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the
And they're
chambers, yeah.
big
Okay,
chambers.
yep, perfect.
And we wanna also perk to make sure they have the proper drainage, but that happens in the next
Fine.
phase.
Yep,
But
that's
yes,
fine.
absolutely.
Okay.
You're right on, you're right on it.
The large water retention chambers that are put underneath.
They
the
have
park.
gravel underneath them, they're big open,
Big
water
plastic.
goes into and has time to settle out. And then there's an overflow that goes across the street.
Yeah,
Great.
Thank you.
Where's this,
Good point.
where are the tennis courts in relationship to this?
so tennis courts, this next, this area, this flat area here with the tennis courts.
Okay,
Yeah.
The light area,
I see, okay,
because they're all level,
334.
flat tennis courts.
good idea.
Yeah.
And then did everyone get the utilities estimate memo from, yeah,
So basically, we can't really discuss it, so we can get into that data. So
right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so I was just gonna suggest that we note on. So did everyone have a chance to review? Okay. So without Dan being here to ask, the main thing I was gonna ask him is, that seems like a really big number to bring utilities into this site, and I just wasn't sure if that was. If this number is like a dead end, like, is this make it not feasible at all? Or is this something that is a normal number? A normal cost, or is it something that outside grants? Are there infrastructure grants or any sort of other ways to not have this? Anywhere from what? 2 to
2.5 million.
2.5 million.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So yeah, depending on which of the wastewater options you choose, but yeah, so 2 to 2.5 million to have that not just roll into the total cost of the project. So,
Well,
unless anyone else around the table knows the answer to that.
Well, the total, as I read it, it would be somewhere between probably 1.5 and 1.6 or 1.7.
No.
I didn't see that.
Well, because we would anticipate wastewater being septic, as I understand it.
I mean, it could
It could
be,
be.
sure.
I think we always intend, we still have to do a perk test, but you're right, we
We
are
go
hoping to
septic.
do septic.
Right.
That
And that's a reasonable. number.
So the overhead, the electric, yada, yada. The outside estimate is around 1 million. Water somewhere between 500 and 750, let's call it 6.5. So all I'm saying is that it's closer to 1.7 than 2.5.
Right.
And we're not paying anything for the land, right?
Correct.
I mean, in some
Both of
cases,
these.
Both,
Either.
both, yeah. Yeah, it's, in our experience, it's a very large number. But it may be mitigated once we look closer at the Harvard Groton site too. We'd like to know what's going on underground. But right now, at the Harvard Groton site, according to Dan V, is those utilities and gas and everything is all accessible right at the street. So those costs are typical for this kind of project. And we would carry that typically in the overall square footage. For the Bishop site, we would probably add $750,000 to $800,000 to the cost of the project in relationship to what it would normally be at the Groton Harvard site.
Wait a minute, John, you said you had 750?
Yeah,
So
to 800,000.
so your base is about 700,000 for the utilities, is what you're saying.
Yes.
yeah, well, the
Get to a
utilities,
million four.
assuming,
Yeah, I think they were looking at propane.
we don't know, we want to like to hear more from Dan V about where we go with our utilities at the Groton Harvard site. But our last word with him is that those utilities are in the street, which means that they would be a typical cost factor, probably more like 200,000, not a 500,000. So the delta would be quite great for the Bishop site, but we could find out that we have some issues with recharging of water in the site, and we'd have to look at that. We'll know more after the test pits, which will help us resolve both sites. Right now, it's looking a little leaning towards the Harvard Groton site because of that, especially electric is a big number. Whereas we have power right in the street.
One of the,
Just go ahead, I'm sorry.
oh, no, go ahead. So one of the further comments on the electric is that it's a little impossible to work with National Grid.
Yeah, well, that's true even if you're getting it right next door.
So if we would anticipate that they would engineer it, I think Dan told me the engineering is gonna be like 15,000, you have to pay them 15 or 20,000 just to engineer it. We tried to get this done on Park Street, it took us 2 years maybe just to get through to the engineering department. There's another factor here is what I'm getting at, it may be a delay factor as well as a cost factor that I think we have to keep in mind. Because they're just impossible. And they have no,
They've been working on a project on Fitchburg Road for like a year and the poles, there's no wires in the poles yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's been going on for like 6 months. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Our last job, they held us up almost 6 months. Everything was done, but no power.
Yeah.
I mean, the building was built, you know,
so
but
keep that in the back of our mind too.
it's just who they are.
So, what I would say is that the utility costs and the probable difficulties working with National Grid are one factor in determining which is the most appropriate site. In my view, it's not necessarily dispositive as to which is the preferred site. That is, there may be other mitigating factors
Yeah, exactly.
that weigh in favor of Bishop Road as opposed to Groton Harvard.
Materials to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying that we don't know yet.
Proximity to downtown being one of them, expansion possibilities, difficulty working or potential future bureaucratic issues with working with the school district. So there are any number of other factors that might inform our decision, in addition to the additional costs that clearly will be significant for Bishop Road. And the other thing is, if we deem it impossible or virtually impossible to bring utilities to Bishop Road, are we then saying for the town's purposes, overall purposes, that Bishop Road cannot be developed anytime in the future? That is, are we taking that possibility for development off the table for Bishop Road for the next 30 years because of the lack of infrastructure that is down that
Are you
street?
asking me that?
No, I'm just kind of, that,
I won't be around in 30 years.
yeah.
You will, I'll wait. You better-
Well, I mean, that's a really larger philosophical question, and I think it's outside of the scope of this committee, but
Depends on how far we want to go, but there's probably more of an attitude by the Devon's people to bring power and stuff down that road in the future than that. There might not be an aptitude for the town to do it unless there's another way to use the land for something else, you know.
I understand. All right,
But It's a lot of money.
I have a question, in terms of the land. I think it came up at last week's meeting from the public hearing when someone was asking about the fact that the land on, Groton Harvard Road is across from the transfer station. And this has come up when I've mentioned to people where the sites are. I've had several people ask me about
Odors.
odors, contamination, or things like that. Like they kind of go, ooh, I don't like that. Is there any issue that we need to investigate related to that? Because we don't want to build a beautiful building and then have, we don't use the transfer station, so I have no idea if there are odors there.
They're not.
No.
I don't think there's any
You heard it right now all
contamination.
over town if there was any odors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good. Just checking.
There are not.
Okay, good.
I think I think I'm kind of really leaning, I'm not, this is just me, but I'm leaning towards the Groton Harvard because I think I've talked to the people in the school. I know Kenny, Dennis just said something about bureaucrat with the school and all that stuff, but from what I'm hearing, I think it'd be phenomenal. I think the elderly interacting with the kids can go down there, and they can walk the track. I mean, we can make so many
Watch the games.
so many possibilities. It's almost like the people here, you see launch chairs out watching the games all day, they want to interact still, that's my own feeling, so.
I think it's a really great opportunity there. I don't think it's right outside the door, though. Like, when I look at our current senior center users, and they might not be our future current senior center users, when you look at the topography there, there's no way they're going up this hill. So,
Lots of seniors would like to walk up there.
I know lots of them would, but I'm just saying that the ones that are going to wanna, that you won't be able to sit on that, on this patio, is what
This
I'm
is
saying.
outside.
No,
On
I
that side
know.
of the street.
On this
Even
side,
that,
yeah.
so for some people, older people would be tough,
Right.
Older people.
I know, what I'm saying.
Well, I guess I just wanted to set realistic expectations that this patio does not look out on this field or that field, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a huge grade difference
That's
there,
reasonable.
just to set
Right.
that expectation.
There has been a real push lately.
Connectivity is a big deal.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with the connectivity.
There's been a real push lately. And I was planning on talking to MCOA this fall on it, but for some reason we didn't squeeze into that spot. But there's a real push lately for intergenerational relationships. The problem, there's both a positive and negative aspect. Positive aspect, it's great to have playing fields around, or maybe having the kids come down and do, I'm sorry, I got my phone out. Didn't realize I did that. Excuse me, I shut this building down. There could be, there's lots of opportunities, but actually having the kids in the center is a big issue, a difficult issue. But having it in a controlled environment, such as going up to a game or going to a play or having some kind of performance by kids at the center, it's a real positive. And having the school nearby is a good idea.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean it's a given, but it's definitely a positive.
But I've seen a lot of them too where, so I'm not against Bishop Road either, because I've seen a lot of senior centers that are outside the town. They don't have to be right in the middle of the congested area, they're outside. Exactly, exactly, so it doesn't, I'm not against that either, so.
What is nice, if there's sidewalk all along that road, it makes it so that when I facilitated intergenerational programs in the past, and you come together for one of the class periods, it's possible to just walk. We don't have to arrange transportation for the students if they want to come down during the school day, so.
Utility costs.
Right, right.
Reach out to them and thank them for this work.
Absolutely, yeah, this is a great document, great estimate. I think probably more still to come on this, because I think, to Dennis's point, it's going to be all the same factors that we rated the properties on initially. Once we have all that data, we're gonna have to look at them all together. All right. Do we want to go on to the updated floor plans and siting?
For the site.
So Jay, just back on that one, so
Oh,
on the
sorry.
soil test and everything, we really can't make a determination, kind of like whatever stuff we want until we do the soil test. Is that what you said? Yeah, so that'll be the next meeting, I think, right?
Yeah. And hopefully next week we will have a chance to view that. I may bring my engineer out, he's a soil evaluator. But it's, I know from what I've heard from Dan, these are type A soils and Bishop and we still need to figure out what's happening over at Groton. Those are issues.
So he did the Bishop Road. So what's the number for the utilities at Groton Harvard Road? We know they're very close proximity to the site. Is there a number?
Yes.
I know I heard $250,000 or.
They're pretty standard there. It's nothing that we would normally not run into.
Right.
It's carried in the basic cost estimate. But at Bishop, we'll probably be adding maybe, what was that number we're keeping
Is it
around?
seven
We'll
hundred
probably-
fifty to 800?
Yeah, no, 1.5 to 1.75, so we'd probably be adding roughly $1 million to that, maybe million and a quarter to the overall cost of the building as added soft costs. Well, actually, they're hard costs. Whereas I think in Groton, Harvard, they're right on the street, so we're dealing with it like we would normally deal with it.
Put a
I
number,
can-
put a number on that. What are you thinking?
Well, it's in the basic cost of the building.
200 to 250.
250, so if we go
Yeah.
250. So that's the numbers we're gonna compare for
Yeah.
utilities. We know
One's
we're over
$1.5
$1 million
million.
on Bishop Road.
Yeah, $1 million.
And we
to
know
$1
we're,
million,
we're,
yeah.
so I mean, if I'm gonna.
That's a
if I
big
can-
number.
If I can save the town, if I can save the town $750,000, or vote to save the town $750,000, that's a lot of
Probably,
money, man.
probably $1 million.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and he was saying that the typical cost is built into the cost of the building, so.
So we're adding on
Really
to-
adding on $1 million,
Bishop,
Right.
million to $1 million and a quarter.
yeah.
Roughly. And we'll know a lot, as the thing develops, we'll know much more.
Mm.
You know, I think right now, I think my understanding from Dan B is that the utilities are all available, including gas. We would not have to do, we do propane
Yeah, do you
at
want
the
me to-
Bishop site.
I
Good
can,
luck getting
Right.
into that.
And we gotta do septic at the Bishop site.
just for the sake of public record, I can read, so when I forwarded that email from Dan that had this memo in it, he said he didn't do a separate memo for Groton Harvard Road, but he would offer the following. Water and gas are both present on both Washington Street and Groton Harvard Road. Therefore, a service connection would be made and no extension of a water or gas main. Based on site conditions, i.e. ledge, the cost could be more than your typical service connection cost. Gas would require coordination and design with National Grid. So that's not there. Electric is present on both Washington Street and Groton Harvard Road. Therefore, a service connection would be made and no extension of electric overhead. Again, site conditions may affect cost. Then in terms of wastewater, the Washington Street pump station is located near the triangle at the intersection of Groton Harvard Road and Washington Street. And a gravity connection would likely be made on Washington Street to flow to this pump station, subsequently flowing to more drive pump station. Presuming a flow of approximately 675 gallons per day from a senior center. I checked the pumping station characteristics and there is capacity to accommodate. And that's, if you want that actual.
Yeah,
wording, that's,
And what'll happen is that when we do the test pits, we'll know more about whether we have a ledge problem that might add, you know, maybe another $30,000 or $40,000 to creating the access. What was the number of
It's
gallons?
still cheaper than Bishop Road.
Oh, yeah. What was the gallons that he carried?
he said 675.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll double check that with our last center. Because we have the same, we had the same number that we had to come up with.
okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to rush the you.
If you-
Discussion. I said, I was- yeah, okay.
Glad you got that memo. You gave you.
All right. Anything else for utilities? All right, so do you want to, I've shared for anyone joining via Zoom, I have shared what Dan, you are showing right now, which is
The site
the
plan.
Groton
I
Harvard
just
Road.
wanted to walk through the site a bit. So I show access to the site via Washington Road, Washington Street. This is one-way access. You come in, come into the site, service and ADA parking is off to the left, or right, wherever, if you, as you're approaching. Yeah, as you're approaching the building. And as you come up, you have a drop off to your right, we'll drop off, your passenger side, whoever needs to be dropped off.
Where is it up?
Right smack at the front.
Right at this front door.
Right here.
Okay, is it covered? We had a conversation about that.
It's not currently covered because that design hasn't really been developed yet.
Okay.
The reason why we often don't cover it is because it requires columns. And in the past, we've found that our experience is that people hit the columns, which holds the canopy. And the other issue is that the canopy needs to accommodate a very high vehicle, let's say a bus. And that requires the canopy to be way up high, up to the second floor. So what we usually do, and you've seen it if you've been to North Andover or Wilbraham or Longmeadow, is that we carry that canopy right out to the edge where you drop off. And then we have the drop off separate from people being able to drive by. So if it takes a while for somebody to get out, you're not blocking traffic. We've been working on the design of this a little bit, and we've been looking at a possibility of a cantilever type canopy. The problem is still a height problem. If you have a van with a raised thing so you can drive, you have to put, you don't want to hit the top of it. So you gotta, it gets way out. We can show you when we get a little bit farther in how that looks.
Yeah.
There's a number.
Groton has a very large.
Yeah,
Thing that
yeah,
comes out. And you
but
come
it's
on
only
there.
a single story building and it goes right to the top of
Yeah.
the top story. Whereas this case, we have a two-story building, it goes up into that second story. And that's where you kind of run into a problem. Also, Groton's a smaller city.
Well, it was, I think it was Sudbury that we went to and it was snowing and they had a van there and they were trying to get people out and they were sitting in the snow and it was terrible.
Yeah,
So-
we build right up to the edge and I can tell you right now, we've got 20 of them out there
Mhm.
and I've not heard any complaints about it, but we certainly will go into that in great detail
Yeah.
at the
I
next
mean,
level and cover and answer those questions.
Yeah,
and
we
findings.
certainly don't want to have.
I'd be interested in seeing if it's possible. I'm thinking about like, you know, when you check into a hotel.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
huge.
They
You
are
see how high
huge.
they
Yeah,
are?
they are huge. Yeah, they are, no, they are
They're 20
huge.
they're
Yeah,
20 feet
huge.
high.
yeah.
And it's a scale problem. This is
Yeah.
not a very big building. I will show you
And
how
it's
it's been
pretty
done
old. There's a whole bunch
at
of
other
stuff going on.
centers,
Mhm.
and we can certainly discuss it.
Must stop.
It's just that with our audience, which some of them, even if they're not in a wheelchair,
I don't know if
they
it's
take
sharing.
Yeah.
time getting out of the
Yeah.
car and,
We're
Yeah.
well aware of that, and
Yeah.
that's why we build it right to the edge. And if we build it over, and we can show you ones that are over and
yeah,
ones that are not,
yeah,
and that's really a little farther down the road.
right. I
But
just want to
certainly,
keep putting it in.
I'm gonna
there.
put it's gonna put it, I'm gonna put it in our list
Yeah,
of covered
it's,
interests.
for some people, that's a big deal.
I do think that's a helpful characteristic to have if it's possible, right?
Yeah, sure.
Be curious to see. I understand.
Everything's
what it-
possible.
Right. Well, I mean, I understand
Yeah.
the concern with what it would look like, so I would be.
It's not so
interested in
much
seeing-
what it looks like, it's worse, it's more difficult than that,
No.
but we're
No.
gonna go over it. We have not done it in the 20 that we've done. We do have it in Lexington, and what we did in Lexington, and we will talk a little bit about this at the end. It's a very contemporary, and we want to discuss, and we'll talk a little bit about this at the end of this, how you want the building, is it more New England, or is it more contemporary New England, or is it very contemporary? The Lexington project we did, we have a series of posts along the sidewalk with a large cantilever going out at an angle where you pull in underneath. You see that at hotels too,
Mhm.
but it's not attached to the building. Then what happens is the connection of the covered walkway comes up to those very high elements. And there's that opportunity, but that's a really design issue that we'll get into.
Okay.
But it's a good point.
So Dan, did you want to
Yeah,
go?
I was gonna continue. Yeah, so now, you are now can be able to circulate on site. You can be able to park anywhere on here. There's 101 parking spaces, 9'6" wide parking spaces. A little extra wide, give us some extra room. And so that way you're able to here circulate back on, be able to pick up whoever you need to leave, and you'll be able to exit out onto Groton Road farther up along past that corner.
So there's no left turn off of Groton Harbor.
Well, you'll be
Road
able
into.
yes, you will be only coming in one way.
You go in one way, you go out one way. And it's very, it only takes about a couple of weeks for everybody to learn the process, but there will be one-way signs, do not enter signs, and very big arrows on the ground. And the reason why we do that is that we do have a lot of issues of people bumping into each other. And to keep it really simple, it's just like our parking spaces, we like to design them 10'6" wide with double lines. 9'6", I'm sorry, 9'6" wide with double lines. So that people, we have lots of good examples of people parking at a fairly obscure angle, and giving the wider width allows you to be not exactly right. But we've dealt with centers in the past, we go around and see them all. If they have an 8-foot or an 8'6" parking space, it's really too tight. Like what you have here, these are pretty tight.
Yes. So what's the sight line as you're coming out onto Groton Harbor Road?
It's actually pretty good. Where's your plan?
Right turn, easy.
Yeah. And one thing we want to make really clear is that at our age, we need 25 to 35 seconds more to make the decision of turning into a site from the left-hand lane and turning back out again. So what we want to do is
25 seconds?
more than
That's a
an average.
lot.
That's your rate?
Not for you, no.
Well, when you got a heavy foot, see, that's the difference. But there's plenty of drivers who are 88, 90, 95 that I don't want to besmirch anybody here if you're that old, but you have to be careful. So we want lots of time, and we don't want to be on a curve. We're going to avoid curves.
Right.
So there's good sight lines, and we make sure that any landscaping stays clear of that view shed. So yes, we spent a lot of time looking at that.
Did you give thought to, that is, have the building by the road and the parking behind as opposed to the parking in front and the building behind?
Well, it's north and south, and we find that the best side to enter the building is on the north side, which is the least amount of sunlight and coldest. And the south side is where the light comes into the building and makes our patio area much more accessible for a longer period of time. So we go north-south. And in this case, our site is set up that way.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work here. If you downgrade on the south from the north to the north.
Well, it's not that, it's steep, but it's not that
I
bad.
understand.
It's over a good
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah, and that's the same case in both of them. In fact, normally, if we were presenting this, we'd be showing where the sun is, but these things are set up north. This
This
is,
is north going that way.
yeah,
Which way?
He's got it out there.
this way. This is south.
Okay.
This is where the sun is. This is where the sun isn't. So we normally set it up north-south. If we can, not all sites do that. Both these sites set up pretty nicely.
We ended up doing that in North Andover because of site restrictions.
Yeah, we're backwards in North Andover.
Yeah.
We had to put our patio on the north side.
But in terms of having the building itself closer to the street and the parking behind it, that is, the building,
Why would you put the building closer to the street?
streetscape purposes as opposed to.
No, you want the barrier.
Okay.
Like you have the
Yeah,
protection of the.
I'd be away from the street. If I can.
Uh-huh.
One thing I'll tell you about the building, because it's 2 stories and it's about, what, 14,000 square feet. It's gonna have a real presence on both sides. It'll really be there. And how it's dealt with, whether it's a more contemporary or a little less contemporary, more New England, if you will. It'll be in your face. And that's why it needs to be good looking.
Mhm.
And that's something, again, down the road. Although as we wrap this up, I'd like to get a sense of how you feel about more New Englandish or more New England contemporary or wildly contemporary. Flat roofs and everything. So, because we're already modeling it in our office, trying to come up with ideas.
In terms of the orientation of the building, one thing that's come up, I think, a little later in the process is the possibility of solar or a green building.
Yeah.
And how does that fit into the
Yeah.
orientation of the building? And one reason is Ayer has a pretty significant green community, and I'm relatively certain that we're going to hear, whichever site is chosen, about what efforts are made to make it green.
Oh, absolutely.
And all those kinds of things. So in terms of the orientation of the building, I guess south and east, so that you can capture solar on the roof.
Yeah, we actually, because of the size of the building, there's a good section of the roof that's flat, but you won't really see it because the way the roof scape comes up. And that flat area can easily take panels. We normally design the roof to accept panels down the road. To give you an idea, in Long Meadow, we have an 11,000 square foot gym with a long flat roof. We designed it for solar. Haven't funded solar yet. And one of the reasons why is because solar is getting better and better. If we would have done solar 10 years ago, it's nothing like it is today. And I would recommend that when you think about solar, let's see how it's developing. I have a son who runs everything off solar, including his Tesla.
That's S-U-N or S-O-N?
What's that? But to give you an idea, yes, we will accommodate that. And also, quite honestly, there may be an area on the site itself where you might set it up separate from the building and feed it to the building. But that's, we certainly will accommodate it.
There's how you get your covered.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's solar panels.
So, yeah, and.
Actually, we do it over parking lots
There's a
too.
small nuclear plant there too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got,
Wow, that'd be great.
All of our own power.
yeah, really, talk about power. And so, I mean, this orientation allows for some passive solar. You work,
Yeah.
you think about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
most of our light into our activity rooms is on the south side. And probably I think one of the classrooms, which might be arts and crafts, will have more northern light to it. But almost all of when you look at the building, almost all of our rooms have access to the south facade of the building. Now, on the second floor, we'll have north windows too, because we have through. But like if you look at, when Dan goes through this more, we don't give Katie any kind of decent light. But when you get to the second floor, you'll see that our bathrooms and rooms that really don't need a lot of light will be along that north side. And borrowed light is a big deal. In fact, quite often, using up all Dan's time, but quite often, we're very big on solar lights. It's solar. I hate the word skylight because everybody thinks skylights leak. These don't. We use a lot of solar skylights to light everything. To give you an idea of one of our centers, we have solar lights into the bathroom. They never turn the lights on. Our multi-purpose room has probably 6 to 8, or what we call the very large ones. You don't have to turn the lights on.
Solar tubes,
yeah.
Solar tubes.
Yes.
It's called solar tube is the one that we use. And in the multi-purpose rooms, you don't have to turn your lights on if you don't want to.
So how are they for insulation?
They're all designed for northern use. We have a thermal break on them, and they're doubled. And also what's unique about them is that you can, like in a multi-purpose room, you're doing a presentation, you push a button and they all go dark. And also, if you want, at night, you can fake the sunlight because we put LEDs in them. And often, the really sophisticated ones, I don't think will be affording that. As the sun goes down, the LEDs lights come up and they become your light system. So we found it very effective. But we limited, again, by budget. And usually almost always have them in the multi-purpose room. If you go to Wilbraham or Longmeadow, you'll see that. And by the way, one last thing. For us older folks, sunlight is extremely important dealing with depression. Very important. So, okay, Dan, keep going. Sorry.
All right, so that's the walkthrough on the site on Washington.
We're not done.
Okay.
Okay, so I was really disappointed that it ended up down there in the lower level of the site, so I've got guys to cover up why you put it there rather than up towards the side of the field over here, which I thought it was gonna.
Back here is all the ledge back here, and the driveway was here, so you were really working with this really tight spot.
The ledge exposes up there.
So the ledge was back here, and then the driveway is here, and your practice field's here. So you had a very tight sliver of land. Yeah, so all that, most of that, if you look at this here. So your practice field's here. So you couldn't, so that's used up. You can't get anything there. So now you have this very sliver of land and a small sliver here. You wouldn't be able to get.
So the combination of the parking and the building lends itself to being down in this area.
Yeah, and you could put a building there, but not a building and parking.
Got it.
You could put parking, but you couldn't put both of them there.
And we
together.
want the parking where the drainage pond is now.
Yeah.
Because all that water comes down, we want to run it into those chambers and store it. And
That's if
without flooding us.
If it perks out the right way.
Well, it's already there.
No, it's already
We're gonna be
there.
above it. We're gonna be,
When,
go ahead.
to Penn's point, when we first visited that site, I know we came in through a short little access way, kind of coming right in towards the practice field.
Yes.
And we were kind of thinking,
Because this is kind of like where it's. Level at.
And so my initial conception of it was that if it were to be Groton Harbor, this was kind of where the building would be, because then one of the initial appeals of it to me was that during the day, we would have access to the practice field. That is, that the senior center being located somewhere here.
Up here.
Yeah.
We would have to be way too high though, in order to get up the practice field.
No, it isn't. The grade is.
So the issue is, if you're taking that senior center size and you're placing it up here.
Yep.
You now have nothing up here for parking. This would take up all your drop off and pretty much you would have nothing here. So you would have to either bring the parking and still put them out way over
Far
here.
away.
And now, you're making people
Look at the
walk
drop.
way over here.
Why can't you
So
put
if
the
you
parking?
rotate it over here, now you see how you're dropping, I think you're going almost 10 feet drop, like over this distance. So now we're gonna have this whole parking either sloped down, or we're gonna have to fill that up to bring that parking up. And then you're still now I can't have it as wide.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be longer and you're pushing people.
Why don't we lay it out that way? for
I
you?
can lay
Let
it
you look
out
at
that
it.
way too.
We'll lay it out that way and show you what we see as the issue.
What I would say is that one of the appeals, one of the kind of nice things about it would be access to the practice field during the day, or access to walking trails up in here. So by having the building down here, so this becomes inaccessible, is that what you're saying? Just because of the steepness of this grade, you don't anticipate, or it's not anticipated that users of the senior center will have convenient access to the playing field,
Not
to the
this-
practice field.
Not this layout.
Well, there can be. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. we-
understand that a walking trail is you're walking, so if you have to walk a little farther to where you wanna walk.
Yeah, 'cause there's
That's
still
part of the
walking trails
exercise.
can easily get up to that.
Yeah,
No, I
I
understand,
understand that.
but I guess what I'm saying is that the orientation of the building on the Groton Harvard site
Mhm.
is significantly different from what I had initially anticipated would be the siting of the building, getting these drawings.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because I did look at putting,
Right.
I did look at putting that building in there and it's. You're pretty much putting the parking way
Why
outside.
don't we just do that?
I can do it and
We'll
tell
do
you
that for
exactly
you.
what
Show
it
you
looks like,
how-
yeah.
How we think it will work.
Uh-huh.
And you can review that, and we'll get that out before the next meeting, so you can get comments back to us.
Honestly, I did send out, last 2 weeks ago, 2 meetings ago, there's one that I did show a building that was like right there, but I'll do an updated one.
I didn't get your name.
Barbara.
Barbara? I wanna-
Sorry.
That's all right, I just like to have it in my list here.
So Dan, what's the topography?
Barbara Gibbons,
So
right?
from the area right in here, what Dennis is talking about, down to there, what's the change in grade from there down to there? I think it's pretty significant.
It
Yeah,
is, it
I
is.
filled it in for 20 years. I've been filling it in for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's one of the.
Well, it's
Yeah.
two ninety-six is where the building is, up to 318 where the practice
Well, you're
field
up and
up
up there, Tom.
Mhm.
Yeah, the practice field's up to 321.
22
Walk
feet.
all around.
Yeah,
Wow.
so if you look at,
I know it's in there.
yeah, I don't
But the idea of a walking trail is you're gonna walk.
see my cursor, or not on that screen, but yeah.
You don't have to walk all the way. I try to get 10,000 steps a day.
This is better.
Oh, look at that, you have.
So this is the, one of the first drawings we worked with when we looked at the land. Instead of the piece, now you're right here.
So-
Basically, there's your practice. field, there's
Yes,
the tennis
yes,
field.
correct.
So following up on what Dennis said, what I said,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it's followed up. There's a driveway right in here.
Yeah.
This is pretty flat.
Uh-huh.
Now it drops this way here.
Oh, yeah, I walked
That
over
way,
there.
The grade gets tight here.
Yeah.
So part of the thought was that in the difference from what you guys would be doing, yes, you
Mm-hmm.
could put the building here.
All right,
And you might have a presence to the building, and maybe have a driveway in front of the building to the street, but definitely the parking would have to be
do
somewhere.
a parking,
Would
yeah,
not be in front of the
the
building.
drop off would be tough too.
The closer to the building parking is, the better.
Yeah,
We know that, yeah, but.
Trying to have a
that's part of the
drop-off
problem.
in front of the building. because if you have the building stay here, you still want to drop off the passenger on the building, so you don't want to be coming dropping off like
There's
this.
another one that comes.
You're
up.
still gonna want
This
people
one,
coming this way.
It's kind of weird.
So you're still gonna want to try to circulate these people back,
Goes across the street.
people back onto the site, so they can go park.
I think it
do
goes
whatever, and then
underneath and out this way.
I think it could happen. Might be an entrance of it here coming in this way.
There's another possibility.
Circle it, and then maybe back out that way, but the problem I had with this area is really
With that
tight.
grade right
I
there
kept
is.
looking at it and I couldn't figure out how they were gonna fit it in, but it seems to work the way you have it.
So it definitely works the way it is. I was just curious.
I can, we can easily look at it.
We'll take it around here.
Yeah,
It's not a problem.
The document
It's just a few lines.
didn't show their combo field fanning out like the outfield.
Oh,
fanning out
well,
this
yeah,
way.
that's electronically I have it, but it's.
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah, okay. Was it, I don't think it went this, I think it went like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright. Is there any other questions on this one?
Yeah. It's all
Maybe
going.
do that whole thing.
You want to move on to the next one, the next site? Somebody said yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I like it. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Now we're on the Bishop side.
Bishop. This one was a little, actually, it sounds like a cinch, but it was a little bit tougher because of all the stuff going on behind it. You have a lot of topography back here. So trying to find a spot, I knew some of these piles sitting around here are just, they're temporary brush or whatever. So I was able to kind of find a spot up front here. So over on the, if looking at this north side, the left entrance, you come into the site, come along here, down along, and be able to drop off in front of the building, 88 parking on either side of the drop off. Utilities off towards the left of the building, my left if you're looking at here.
Yeah.
And then be able to circulate back along in each one of these. I was able to get 101 parking spots. I actually think that's wrong. I want to say that's, no, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There should be 88. There's 88, sorry, there's 88 spots. The
Right,
number on there's wrong.
plus the,
And plus the 2 4s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's 80 here,
Yeah,
7, 1, it's 88. And then you have the 4 ADAs,
so that's how many?
total of 88 and 8 ADAs, 96.
Pretty close.
and not the arrow on your print, is that, are you using that at all?
Same, yeah,
Yep.
this is north on
It's
both.
always set up
Yeah.
that the.
So you're looking
The
at north.
orientation of the plan is always north-south.
I think that was west, so I guess.
Okay, so,
Yeah, it's north-south.
so what, what are these?
Those are the 88 parking spots. So this one was off, so I was able to get them on either side of the drop off. As opposed to this where they're off to the side.
Let's see.
And just so everybody knows, the reason why we come in the way we do is that I've actually seen a couple senior centers where they have them coming in and the person gets out of the car opposite of the door. We don't do that. And that's kind of a classic mistake that some people make. But we always want our folks are getting off on the side, and that's why we do it right near the canopy, especially people with mobility issues. It could be, 3, 4, 5 minutes getting in and out of the car. So you need to be on the side where the door is. There's a relatively new center down south in Massachusetts that you come in and the car parks right next to a ramp coming out of the front door into the driveway of the car. So somebody coming out of the front door in a wheelchair or a walker will slide down right where the car is coming in. So we spend a lot of time looking at other options and other, we've been to almost every new center in the state just to see how they're doing it. And we get good ideas and we get bad ideas. So that's what we do.
And just for the public, how did you arrive at, somewhere between 90 and 100 parking spaces as being kind of the number that you'd like to shoot for?
We try and maximize our parking no matter what we're doing. Because believe it or not, especially at these 2 sites, we're a little bit more remote from any other options. To give you an idea, in Wilbraham, our overflow is the parking at the town hall because it's right next door. So we have, I can't remember what we got in Wilbraham. We had about 95.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they have a major event, they have another option. Here, we're landlocked, so we're trying to get as many parking spaces as possible. And 100 is a good number, give or take. When we did Duxbury, we did 70 spaces. And it was a 16,000 square foot center. Within 3 years, they doubled the parking because the demand is amazing. When you build these things, you don't realize how many elders who want to use this center exist in town until you build it. And then the famous line is, you build it, they will come. Emmett Schmossel, who used to be on the Elders Affairs, that's his favorite line. And almost all these centers quadruple the number of people coming once they open up. Because of all, it's just a great center, you know, all the facilities that you have. The buildings. Oh, yes. Anyhow, go ahead, Dan. You were.
Well, certainly, where we left off. Any questions on?
We were concerned that there's some water not far away, so we wanted to make sure that when we do the test bits, we want to see where our water table is. Because in Massachusetts, I think it's 70% of all the water has to be contained on site. And in this case, I don't think we have stormwater. Well, we're gonna do 100 here, but no, it's not required. No, I can tell you, I do a lot of them. Yeah, well, my last one doesn't have 100, but what we do,
You should actually remind me of something.
we must have broke the law.
We should be looking at our stormwater regulations in town, because we just passed new.
Yeah, well, yeah, really, our engineer will do that.
You should be looking at our site plan regulations.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things, because the parking lot requirements, they,
We exceed that with our parking lot and our number of parking spaces, but yeah, our engineers group will get into the details of how we contain the water. And it has a lot to do with water table, penetration of soil in terms of perking. Also has to do with the fact if we don't have, like in Wellesley, we did 90% on site with an overflow into a storm sewer. We don't have a storm sewer here. So our engineer may very well want to do a retaining pond somewhere that will flow into it. And if you go to Wilbraham, it's all into a retaining pond right next to wetlands.
on the right.
And it's massive, yeah. And we do have some wetlands here that, you know,
If they're
they're over
down,
here.
where?
Go ahead, Dan. Or anybody else that wants to. chime in on this.
When we visited, again, I'm so confused, I just saw so many. I think one of them was Andover, North Andover. And then there was another one where they said there was a problem. I think it was with the patio that they were having to
Yeah.
dig it up and redo it.
Yeah,
or
of course
something.
they did, because the contractor screwed it all up. We had to.
Who did the contractor report to?
The contractor works for the OPM, which is the town, and us.
Mhm.
And when he installed it, he said he put in weeps, which he didn't do. And
He said he put in what?
weeps, there's a retaining wall there. You had to have weeps every, I can't remember what it was. And also he was supposed to have crushed gravel down to grade, down to footing,
Mhm.
none of which he did. So what happened was, when the water came out and rained, it floated the bricks because they're recycled tire type things. They'll float, but if you don't drain the water, they float. If you drain it, which it works fine now, he had to come back and redo all his work.
Did they have to pay for that?
Who?
Did the?
North Andover.
Heavens, no.
Okay.
It was an error. The contractor didn't follow the drawings. And the OPM and the clerk didn't catch it. We're not on site every day.
Yeah,
They have they have a clerk on site.
and there was
either.
one other one that had a problem, but I can't remember who the second one was.
Well, North Andover had a lot of problems. They didn't properly drain from we have 2 retainage ponds. And they were supposed to drain it down to a structure down on the lower street. And they didn't do that.
Mhm.
And we pointed it out to them at the time they were doing it, and they said, oh, we don't own it. They ended up having to do it. They did it properly.
Yes, I don't want to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, no. Well, this is public bid, low bidder wins. Some low bidders are excellent.
Low qualified bidder,
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily be the low price.
well, rest assured, it's really hard to unqualify. We can unqualify almost. Yeah. We will probably bid this open bid in order to get the best price, but they all have to meet DCAM requirements. And we call references on them all, and if the references are such, and you'll have an owner's project manager by then, and we would review those references, and if there's a problem. But it's really hard to let go of a guy who might be $1 million lower than the next best bid. So it's one of those things where it's the bid laws are really difficult because we have foul sub bids and they're arranged marriages. And sometimes it's really successful. In Wilbraham, we had a fabulous builder. Fabulous subs. They all did a good job. I mean, there's hiccups, they have to fix things, but all in all, in North Andover, we had a contractor that we worked with in Wellesley, did an excellent job. Blew it. Completely.
So on the, for the building side on Bishop / McPherson, how it's about a third of a mile to the triangle from the building, about 2,000 feet. Give or take.
1,650, I think.
1,650 feet.
50 and then 2,000.
So a quarter of a mile. And the national, and the wildlife refuge or the federal,
That's right.
That's over towards the triangle, right?
Right at the DPW fence property, where it starts.
at the.
Where this land was given by the Army to the town, it was part of Devon's land. This whole chunk.
Yeah,
So as soon as you go beyond their fence, that's Foxville.
as soon as you go beyond the fence, and the fence is.
Just off the straw.
What's that?
It's just off the straw.
Yeah, okay.
Because the property line's not over there on the left-hand side of the ground.
Is this the existing driveway right there?
Yeah, and that's where I'm going next.
Okay.
Get to it.
And what's, and the other side of the road is,
That's open space on Devon's
it's open space on the, right,
and bumps up against the airport.
yep.
And open space on Devon's to the other side, the triangle, if they have okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're going?
Well, I'm waiting for Dan to.
Oh.
Be ready. whatever.
I'm ready.
Okay, so my first question has to do with the existing driveway. Did you talk to Dan Van Skelwick and he edged you to the side of that driveway?
Well, I think they're using that driveway to dump.
They can build a driveway anyway.
Yeah.
See, I think the whole building should move to the left, almost exactly where the driveway. is.
Over to the left. And then you have this giant thing is you have this huge pile of, I don't know what that
Well, you're
is.
cutting,
That-
you're
that's
cutting
my
and
thing.
filling where it is now. And it flattens out to the left.
And that's not a problem. Yeah,
I think we should just take a look at that,
Yeah.
because this driveway is just a gravel driveway, it can go anywhere, we can move it around.
Yeah,
Um. That's the only really, and the only other comment that I have is it just, the whole parking lot appears, because we don't have trees here, to be too close to the street. That it would be better to have a back from the street further with a buffer. Now, is that what you don't want? Maybe you don't want that.
Well, we
that was
plant,
one, that was
we
one of my
can plant within the right of way of the road, it's, you just gotta get permission to do that.
Yeah.
But that's a
What I'm
good
saying
point.
is, the question I was asking is your preference to have it visible across the pavement to the building?
I was just
So you
trying,
would clear
I
it.
was trying to get an extra set of 8 parking spots in there to get that, but yeah. Because of not pushing the building too far back.
Right, yeah, right.
And that's where I was able to get that, that's why the road's so close.
So you could,
There could be still some, we can still work on putting maybe a foot.
I mean, eventually
6
we'll
feet,
we'll take a
8 foot,
look
yeah,
at it,
but yeah.
so I was curious if you were intentionally trying to leave it open so you would see right from the street.
Well, we do wanna see down the street,
Yeah.
but that's a good point, I think we should, will possibly.
About why.
Well, this is tight, whatever this is.
So from the street to the edge of the parking lot, how do you?
Well, I was curious if, for instance, I
That's
thought they
currently-
might have been thinking as you drive down the street, you just look right.
We have about
across
25 feet,
the
25 feet from the road. We have about 25 feet from the
From
road.
the, well, from the
Paving.
From the
From
paving.
paved
Yeah.
road
Right,
currently,
right.
yeah.
Is there any drainage along that road?
No,
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of space there, but shifting it a few feet would not be an issue.
Yeah,
Let's look at,
so this
we can
line,
slide
I
this
could shift
down.
it over.
the property
What's
line
this
of
thing
the
here?
street
It's so
that
huge.
you're showing.
There's
is
a
that-
pile there, there's,
Those are just
Piles.
piles, so. They can.
I'm saying, I don't know what
They'll
exactly
move the
that is.
piles.
Oh, I mean, we'll get closer to it later
Yeah.
on, but I.
Well,
to me,
okay,
if you-
got it, yeah.
You know,
Good point.
And how much, just, I guess they're approximately just about identically sized, how, in terms of acres, in terms of the parking in the building, how many, what are you taking up?
Probably an acre and a half, 2 acres.
Well, the building is, what, 10,000 on the first floor?
Yeah,
You gotta have
the parking is the biggest one.
60,000, 70,000.
Yeah. An acre and a half.
An acre and a half, 2 acres.
Yeah. Normally, if the site needs to be bigger than that. We often say that you'd like to have a 3 acre site. For all the stuff that goes
Yeah.
on. But the actual parking takes up, it's our biggest footprint, is the parking. It's big.
Ask a question,
Sure.
just real quick, there's no locust map on here. How far down McPherson Road, is that the old entrance to the brush dump?
Yes.
That's what, yeah.
It's basically on the back. It's about 2,000 feet from Park Street.
What about the gate?
Did you want to removing the gate?
So
The gate's
there's
taken
been,
care of.
yeah, the gate's taken care of. There, we've had conversations with Mass Development about relocating the gate.
Jimmy's doing the voting next week.
Do it tonight.
We started with that, how we're gonna handle the gate. And that was the first.
Has anything ever been built on these two sites?
I hope not.
Ever existed on these two?
We've asked and been told no. And when we do our digging, we're gonna find out.
Yeah, gonna find out if there's unexploded ordinances there.
Yeah, well, we've had sites where they said nothing was built, and then we go to do our test pits and found old foundation.
So while we're talking about the gate, while we're bringing it up, the location of the gate is also gonna depend, if this turns into a turnaround with people coming around, because this gate's closed a lot of the times during the course of the year. Is our senior center parking lot gonna be turned into a turnaround?
Perhaps.
Just looping through all the time.
You're talking about moving the gate beyond the triangle. So the triangle becomes a turnaround.
So people are gonna go all the way down, how are they gonna know?
We're gonna put signage at
Okay,
the front of
so
the
signs we
street.
go put up, right?
Put electronics, do something.
Don't you dare turn around in our parking lot.
Unless you're coming in to join us for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then, yeah, unless
Make a
you're over
donation.
60. All right,
It's cool. Wish it was there.
Yeah.
Just one thing. So based on the orientation of the building and that small parking lot in each case, that's your service entrance for the restaurants, service entrance for the kitchen, I should say.
yes,
And a dumpster location, obviously there too.
if we do a dumpster, we usually don't recommend dumpsters, especially in remote areas. Because we usually use those,
Just rollaways.
those rollers that they pick up and with the closed top on them and generally a building the size doesn't need more than about 6 of them. But you have to talk, what we need to do is understand how the town picks up or what your service is.
They have to hire professional service.
Yeah.
Town doesn't have-
And generally they'll pick up either once a week or twice a week. It depends on what your, we generally don't generate a lot, but if you do a lot of meals, you really want it picked up fairly often. Because of smells and animals.
What about like transformer location, the generator location?
Yeah, that's all. good.
It works out.
Yeah.
how you do it.
Yeah,
Plenty of room.
we keep the generator away from the patio.
Yeah.
Even though they're super quiet, these generators, if you do a whole building generator, it's probably a 500 kW. It'll be attenuated so that it's not noisy. Okay.
First floor.
From last meeting, I have mirrored the whole building to reflect the site and to orientate it right. See what, all right. We have a drop off to the north of the building, coming into our vestibule. Into our lobby. Area.
Reception.
Reception, oh yeah, reception admin. Nothing much has changed here. I did just kind of move the rooms,
The desk areas.
yeah, sorry. This area's around and the copier a bit, but nothing has much changed there for size
I'm
wise.
saying,
It's good for
Yeah, the whole.
Yeah, we mirrored.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm just, never mind me, never mind me, I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
I
kind of
would
like,
point out as
like
Dan is
that.
explaining, reception's here, information board is here. Information board generally has, will have a screen on it. And it would be managed by administration. So current events and things happening in the center will be up on the screen. The stair and elevator are right in front of you.
Stair elevator in front of you. We have the cafe and lounge area that bleeds into the library.
Which is quieter.
Nice, quiet, secluded area with a double-sided fireplace. Two entrances into the multi-purpose room. So it is divided roughly
1/3, 2/3.
1/3, 2/3. It's about 23 feet in width.
We're
Kitchen,
revising the plan. You were, it's a revised plan.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kitchen, storage, pantry, all this stuff over here support did not change from the last plan. Nothing.
Which is storage for medical items
Yeah.
and things like that.
One of
Just for the next one, can you put that door in between the storage and the
Yeah.
medical?
Oh, yeah.
installing a door here
Yeah.
You want to have access from here to here?
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the storage to
Okay.
medical storage. So there's so you can access the medical storage from.
Yeah, I get that, I get that. I'll look up this one.
It looks like in the kitchen here, is this open to the dining room? Is this open?
Yes,
That's all open, like an open window, like
yeah,
people can walk up?
yeah, yeah, and it'll have,
Oops.
they have either heated or cool areas for food, and they can self-pick up, and those that can't be pick up, they'll have it delivered to
So
them.
Dennis, you were saying put a door between the storage area and the medical storage, is that what you said then?
Right, yeah.
Would that be a secured door? I mean, what kind of medical stuff like we talking about?
Oh, it's just
Walkers.
walkers.
Oh, okay.
Chairs.
No one's gonna wanna run away with those things in there.
No.
No,
We,
but that
we
would,
kind of wish they would,
Yeah.
actually.
that
If they
would,
could,
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
many of
need 'em. Interesting call.
it wouldn't be for public use though,
Yeah.
anyway, just this storage door would stay closed. That would be where tables and extra tables and chairs would be, and that would be. So it wouldn't be like the patrons would be
Okay.
in that storage space anyway.
And I presume all these doors are all wheelchair accessibility, right?
It makes 3'6" doors.
Okay.
All the doors on the center.
Yep.
We may have mentioned it before, we have a quadriplegic that works for us. And her wheelchair doesn't fit through an ADA standard door. So 3'6" is what we do, which means that your clearance is about 3'2". But a standard 3.0 door is 32 inches wide, which is too narrow for a lot of these new wheelchairs that they have.
So you said a double-sided fireplace?
Yes, over in the library lounge
Yep.
area.
Okay.
I think I like that layout a lot.
Yeah, what it does, it goes from noisy, active to still pretty noisy, a little bit quieter, and then to a lot quieter. So that there's different kinds of conversation and things, reading, knitting. There's a knitting group that meets in Holyoke in the library area twice a week, where it's quiet and it works really nicely.
But there's gonna be a gas fireplace, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we're gonna throw wood in
Yeah,
there.
help the wood.
Well, we gotta exercise a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly.
Yeah, in fact, what's amazing is that in Holyoke, they like having the fireplace in the summer. I mean, they like it, they just like sitting around. the fire. It's got a glass door in it.
And how large do you envision the patio area, or is that?
It's very flexible.
Yeah.
It's not resolved yet. And it might reach around the building. And to give you an idea that in the multi-purpose room, there's a folding door that opens up to the patio. You can have an event that's going on in the center. You could also have a performance that's out onto the patio. Normally, we would do a stage there. We thought because of budget, we might not, it's not really a stage, it's a performance platform. It's 18 inches high. It requires a lift. It adds about $90,000 to the project. And if you wish to have it, we could work it into it. But we'll talk a little bit about costs after we get through the plans. You can decide as a how you want to go with that. It's really expensive right now to build, so.
Is the patio brick, the rubber bricks?
Yeah, we recommend the rubber bricks, they're softer. And also they can be engraved. And to give you an idea, in Walpole, they raised $40,000 or $50,000 on $150 bricks, you're putting, you know,
I think it was-
honoring my
Did
church.
that in Wilbraham?
Yeah, we did it. We're also, they didn't sell off the bricks in Long Meadow. They'd already raised so much money, I guess they felt they didn't need to do it. But yes, in Wilbraham and also in Holyoke, they have that too.
Walpole.
Walpole has it. I think Walpole is one that did $40,000 or $50,000 worth of fundraising. And by the way, it's not a one-time thing. There's probably enough bricks there to raise $500,000. So you can keep selling bricks every year. You can do mint juleps on the bricks or something.
I did just want to ask, in the multipurpose room, you've got that 23-foot line. Is that just spatial marking, or
No,
are you suggesting a
that's-
double divide?
Yeah, it's a divider.
That's just telling you how wide that's gonna be.
Quite often you'll leave tables set up for meals and you don't have to knock them down.
No, I knew about this partition. This line was
Oh,
not
that's
here in the
just the
last
dimension
drawing, so
line.
I was
That's-
wanting to check if that was a
Yeah.
dimension line and
Yeah,
not
that's
a
a dimension
double
line, yeah.
division. Okay, all right.
If you have
thanks.
really, really good eyesight, you can see the dimension.
Yeah, all right, awesome.
So is this the intended walkway around the building?
Yeah, you still
Yeah.
have your walkway.
Yeah.
going.
And that's going to be a budget item that we'll talk about. To do the covered walkway is a big deal all the way around the building.
Yeah, I'm sure that's.
But I just, we're showing it. We have a couple of different ideas of how you would achieve it. We'd like to do it without columns, rather hang it off the building so that it's column free, because the columns are very expensive. We do all the footings and everything. So we're looking to support it off the building either with a bracket down, which you might walk into, but we're thinking of a rod that comes off the facade that hold that up.
But the main entrance for everybody to come in would be right here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You thought about putting any kind of like, heating the pavers underneath or the concrete?
Oh, what a great idea.
Have you thought about that?
We try not to think too much about things that if we could do it through solar or something, it's very expensive. We did a center with that. It's gas fired. It uses a little boiler.
I've done them both. I'm done with gas, I'm done with electricity, doesn't matter, but I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
When I put them in, I get people out, I send it out, people love it, it saves so much.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
You know, we're talking about, you know, again, I'm almost an elderly person myself, but.
Almost.
Talking about-
Did you get that?
I'm not up to Ken or Dennis, you know.
I look forward to you joining.
Yeah, that's an option, certainly down the road. We'll factor it in. It melts the snow. Yeah, and he won't have to come and shovel when we're.
So like radiant heat, but underneath.
It's
the-
radiating,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's not very green, if you want
Yeah.
to know, and we're talking about trying to be green.
Well,
It's a very ungreen.
You know,
It's
we're gonna
a
have a
really
nuclear
interesting
plant.
idea, though. because
Oh, yeah, we're
if
gonna have
you had
nuclear
So
water.
Radiant
I've got plenty
heat,
of-
essentially,
Yeah.
it would take away some
Wouldn't
of
cost a
the
lot of money.
desire to have that covered.
No, it's not the money, it's
For the road.
operating.
Is to keep
Yeah,
the
operations
elements
is great.
off,
We got
right,
plenty
when
of
you're getting out of the van or the car, and so
Dr.
if
Robert, we got
the
plenty.
sidewalk
Yeah,
was
okay,
heated
I'll ask
there.
her. But no,
you
we'll
might be able to
put,
accomplish some of
Yeah,
it.
but it's snowing.
I'm putting it on the list, right? It's on the list.
Yeah, that doesn't solve that. I just meant for the fall. I was thinking about it from a fall hazard perspective.
Right.
Cause
Yeah, just see right here.
they are already gonna have the covered walkway coming in, so it would just be that sort of
Oh, I'm not talking about
5
the whole
feet,
thing.
right, it takes you to get out of your car and onto the covered walkway. But if,
So I wasn't saying about doing the whole thing, I'm just talking about doing the main entrance.
Yeah,
It's just
no,
the
I
main
know that,
entrance,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, I'm not caring about these other walkways, you know?
Our project in, Kingston, we elected to do that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure whether they're still paying for it, but it was a little boiler, a gas boiler. It's a really high efficient little boiler. I don't like the idea of electricity unless we have solar panels. If we have solar panels, I don't care. Sounds great.
You're only
But
talking
that's what-
you're only talking 4 months a year. In the last couple
Yeah.
of winters, we didn't have much anyway, so.
I was gonna say.
You know,
well,
pretty soon-
You know, it's.
Pretty soon,
Exactly.
it'll be obsolete.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Shh, don't say that.
I have it there. I have it. So this is a covered area. And right now it's covered all the way around the building. And obviously, if you're gonna be doing it on walking track, we should probably heat the whole sidewalk.
That's still responding to the statement.
Yeah,
yes,
oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah, okay, got it. You want to get up to the second floor? Because we made some changes to the second floor as a result of our discussions last time. We reduced the size of the fitness room. And, rather than having a divisible two classrooms divisible, we made one large one and one smaller one, and we moved the fitness room where there was another one. So we reduced the size of the fitness room. So Mike, go ahead, Marcus.
All right, so now when you're
Come up
coming up the stairs, our game room is in front of us. There is this dotted boxed area is the play area you would need for 2 billiard tables. Currently, I just have card tables set up everywhere. We have a little calendar with sink for any drinks or such. Down this, it's not really necessarily a hallway, but more of an extension of the game area, adding more seating for whatever games and such. Down at the end, we have our wellness, got a little bit bigger. If you remember from the last plan, this section of the building on the second floor was pushed back. After me and John looked at that, John and I looked at that. The structure for that was probably going to be adding to it, so it was just smarter just to push that wall to match down below
First floor.
the first
Yeah.
floor.
Rather than creating a
These
separate
bump outs
structure.
are just going on the second floor, match the bump outs on the floor.
Yeah, yes.
Recess
So
second.
that whole all those walls are going straight up,
Yeah.
straight through.
We did dot in the possible billiards tables down the road, we want to make sure you had the room in case you relented. Those are the dotted lines there.
Yeah.
But with getting that extra space, it added to that fitness and made it really large, so we kind of rethought that whole area. So now you have a larger activity room over here.
And a small.
We moved and smaller one over here. Moved the fitness over to where one of the activities rooms were.
And reduced its size.
And reduced the size of it.
What would it take to make and I don't know your view of this, Katie, the larger activity room on the second floor is subdividable? So each room would be about 400 square feet, give or take?
so, I mean, I suppose you could.
Never hurts to have too many classrooms, but.
No.
So I think, Dennis, when we placed this off, this room from the air conditioner to my office wall. And from this wall to the edge of the kitchen was about 850-ish, we were somewhere in the 800s somewhere. So that's the size, so this activity room number 2 upstairs is roughly this size.
You could get 2 rooms out of that. Two.
I mean, you certainly could,
The other one's 600 square feet.
right, so.
It's something worth thinking about. If
I'm gonna
Was
write
that gonna
that.
be all glass along there?
We have it shown as glass, but
Okay.
and
You
then
have to
just,
change that a little bit if you were gonna make it subdividable.
yeah, you would
we'd end up
block out
having
a
another door from
midway,
this side.
and you,
from this side.
and the movable partition's probably a $45,000 item. It's not, it's not the end of the world.
I like that idea just because it seems to me there's not a lot of classroom space.
We have 3 of them, right? One
We'll have
downstairs.
3, yes.
Yeah.
3 plus the multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
So if you
So-
have that, you're gonna be at a capacity of what,
So how,
12 to 15?
Right now, if you
Right now,
allow,
you're about 24 people in there fully.
well, we wanted,
That's-
because of the size, we want to restrict it to 25 people, so you have a single door. You add a second door, you can increase that. Right now at 800 square feet, you can get 50 people in there. So if you divided it, put in a second door, you would,
20 to 25?
yeah, you would in each side, which is about a size of a classroom,
In which,
It's not a bad
that's
idea.
20 to 25 people at tables or in small round, how, do you have any sense of that?
It moves all over the place. If you do tables, it's probably 15 to 20 square feet per person, and if it's not tables, it's probably 12.
So keep
12
in
square
mind
feet.
that from where the end of this, from where Barbara's sitting to the wall, we get 24 people in here comfortably at tables for lunch. So you couldn't add from where she's sitting to the front wall, just as a spatial exercise, 24 more people.
Right.
So you would be really looking at like 15 probably tables per side.
Yeah.
For
Comfortably.
this, but I'm just thinking for like a discussion group or an activity group.
Yeah.
15 to 20 people would seem like a reasonable number.
Yeah.
This room doesn't appear to have a sink. I believe most of the
The
rooms.
activity room 2?
Yeah, yeah.
It does. It's over by the
lower-
stair.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. They all have a sink and cabinets,
Yeah, that's what I
because
thought.
you never know. And if you divide it in 2, you probably will add a
I would
second
probably, yeah.
sink and add a second storage area, which might,
Which actually, we could dig out some of this area.
yeah,
For
what is that?
Currently, yeah, this is a large chase area.
But it would be-
Should be probably good. It should become storage.
It would
Yeah.
be something, my thought on the large room was that you could put a temporary, it would not be permanently subdivided.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
Yeah.
so depending on what activity, I'm not sure you'd need a second sink or a second storage area.
I mean, I don't know that you have to, for flexibility, I don't think it's,
Yeah, I think
That
it's just
big
to
of a
offer
deal.
more options depending on.
but I mean, I can see a space like activity room number 2 being perfect for if there's a large exercise class going on downstairs. You could have a yoga class upstairs, something that's not really equipment dependent. Or people could just move yoga mats upstairs or whatever versus, or if there's a special event going on. You would be able to channel a lot of the things that would be happening in the multi-purpose room normally.
Yeah.
into that
We'll
space.
look at that.
Yeah.
We did relocate the shower in with the other big toilets. So that's-
I did briefly talk with the fire chief, who said he was open to the idea. Thought it was a great idea to use this building as a shelter if it was something that we were interested in. He gave me documents for it. I think that's something that we, as this committee, need to decide if we're interested in. I'm not invested in it one way or the other, like as the COA director, but we probably should decide that
What,
so
what,
that
what,
you guys will
Yeah.
know if you're trying to put a second shower.
We
in
would-
there.
I can tell you right now, as emergency shelter, you can't call it an emergency shelter. Unless you do some
Okay.
very serious changes to the building in terms of withstanding tornadoes and all kinds of things. However, with the generator, which we're planning to do, this is a warming center or a cooling center.
Yeah.
People can generally the kitchen can run. you start putting people overnight here, that's a whole other animal. And I believe the last time we tried to do that, we ran into some code issues. We'd have to look at that again. But certainly all of our centers now are available for warming and cooling, which is really an important thing.
Yeah.
Especially for elders. You lose power for 5 days, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So you can come here and get meals. You can stay cool or stay warm. But sleeping overnight is a complicated.
Can we get back to this activity room number 2?
Yeah.
I guess I have problems with all glass wall, which is essentially what you have here, as somebody who likes to exercise in groups. I don't.
Well,
want
we don't
people
exercise in
watching
that
me.
room. We've got lots of other places.
Well,
Also, I would recommend what we did in Wellesley. We had both a fitness and exercise in the same space, and there's a curtain, a lightweight curtain that slides across and just pull it across. But having transparency is really important for people to see activities and want to be a part of it. So we like the idea of transparency. And the way we deal with it is that we use a curtain system. And then Wellesley, we actually divided the room with curtains because a lot of our folks don't like exercising in front of people. I kind of like the idea.
What I'm saying is that you would be thinking in terms of that being an exercise room, although it's called an activity room.
The idea
What
is that
about
it's
the
a
other one?
flexible space.
yeah, well, and I guess,
Exercise.
it's not only exercise that, I guess the whole idea of being in a fishbowl doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
I think, some panels being all glass would be nice, to bring in light and I appreciate open space feel and stuff.
Well, it's a little early to worry about that,
Yeah.
but I would also recommend that you go to Wilbraham or North Andover. And even in Groton, they have a lot of glass in the fitness area.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I can tell you that I don't see that room being used for fitness. Often a ton of fitness goes on in the multi-purpose room. There's not a lot of glass in there.
Mhm.
And also you can divide the room. In fact, in Belmont, almost all the fitness is done in the multi-purpose room. And there the glass is very limited because there's a lot of things, it's on the first floor. Upstairs, there's a lot of things that go on that if you don't have the transparency, a lot of people, we have our socialization area up here, and they may see an event going on in here that they want to be a part of. If it's all closed off, they won't see it. So we like the transparency.
Why,
have an
Programming.
what's that?
I have an idea.
What?
For the sake of I don't like the idea of curtains because I don't have time to vacuum those and they'll get dusty
Vacuum?
and gross and,
I never vacuumed my curtains in 25 years.
well, they
Oh,
probably
my
have
God.
dust on them. All right, so
Anyhow,
anyhow,
it's
but I
really a
think you could
detailed thing that we can worry
I
about.
think you could really work on that, Carolyn, by having glass there to let the light through, but let's say the bottom half is frosted and then there's some sort of pattern to the top half.
Yeah.
So that if someone's intending to look in, they can look in, but for the people who are inside it, they don't feel so exposed.
Over here, this is borrowed light coming from all these windows coming into this space. And same over here. So borrowed light is a big deal, but this room has very limited glass. This room has very limited glass. This is the one that has a lot of glass, but to be honest with you, it's way down
Yeah.
that road.
Yeah.
So we did relocate the handicap shower over.
So in terms of the emergency shelter,
No,
yeah,
You just
it
can't do
doesn't
it.
seem to me that
You can't do it.
yeah, that it would open up a can of, accountability and bureaucratic and paperwork things, maintaining it as a shelter, equipping it as a shelter. having it prepared in case it's needed as a shelter. Which I think would turn into a, operationally it would become difficult over the years. So it didn't seem to me that, I think the point Barbara raised earlier was in 60 years, there's never been a call out for the use of an emergency shelter in town. So
Often the schools play that role too,
Right.
because they're built.
You pretty much just during the week here, Monday through Friday, right? The weekends, it's nothing really going on.
Right,
Weekends, right?
right now, there's not,
Yeah.
it's possibility we would grow into that at some point, but right now, and then as we would initially probably be
But
staffing.
when you need the facility, you're gonna lock the door and you
Mhm.
turn the alarm on, you go home.
Mhm. I mean,
So
unless-
all you have to worry about is, who's gonna be in this building when we build it.
my only request, if it's not gonna be used for that purpose, can we redesign the shower room so that there is a shower stall that can be locked?
It can be locked.
Huge amount of room.
Just lock the room.
It's a huge amount of room. You just,
Well, you can't
why,
lock.
why
the
would you
room.
want to lock the
You
shower?
can't lock the room because that's your companion restroom for upstairs, right? Or are you saying that both the men's and the women's upstairs can be used as the companion restroom?
Because they're individual, you can use them that way.
Okay,
They're individual.
right, so as long as I can lock
Yeah.
it.
You have a concern about maybe homeless people or somebody using the shower. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We've not run into that problem, but I understand what you're saying. And the room, what we'll do is we'll put hardware on that and lock it off. You have an option then.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna make a note of that too.
This activity room can probably have another window in it, right?
Yeah, well,
It's bumped back
yeah.
unless we divide the room there.
Some of the there will be some windows there, yeah.
Windows are big.
Yeah, it's still,
Windows down there.
it's still really early in the.
Once we start throwing around 3D.
Yeah, we're already modeling, and as we model, we'll sort that out. And I will apply a number for that covered walkway. As to what that might cost. I'm working on some numbers. Anyhow, I don't want you to stop yet. Is there anything else up here that we can?
Katie, you said that you had looked into whether or not the multi-purpose room could be used for indoor pickleball court, but you said it wasn't high enough, right?
You need
Right.
18 feet clear.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why it doesn't work in Groton, even though they did it. I think someone didn't realize that when you play pickleball, a big part of it's lobbing.
Yeah,
And right now that ceiling's 10.6, I think.
oh,
I don't know why they're not poking holes in it if we're playing, but you need 18 feet clear all the way across.
and what do we have?
Well, we range from 22 feet down to 10 feet. It's sloped.
Oh,
And if you want that kind of volume, then you've got a huge amount of HVAC and issues with that. In Long Meadow, we built a gym, like what you originally thought about doing. And that gym has 3 pickleball courts and the ceilings are 26 feet. And there's a walking track inside.
I just know a lot of people who do pickleball.
Oh, yeah.
And if there was, because I was assuming we would have some kind of pickleball courts. You're saying that the tennis courts at the school could be used.
They
for
convert
pickleball?
with pickleball.
They are lined. They're currently lined.
Yeah,
for
They're using
pickleball.
that for pickleball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, they just built a whole new, they redid all the tennis courts in up where our summer house is. And they set them all up, so pickleball, when you take a court, you can actually do the pickleball across the backside of the courts. So they have 3 courts, but 6 pickleball options. And also, it might be possible after fundraising things that you can have a pickleball court on the site. To give you an idea, we didn't have room in Wilbraham for that, but we did have room for a bocce court. So we put in a bocce court.
Yeah,
I would be curious to know once we get to what I presume are the landscape features.
Yeah. we'll look at
which
that.
sites can
That's a
accommodate.
fundraising item too.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Yeah.
and
Right.
name the pickleball court after me.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
How much space do you need for a bocce court?
It's pretty, it's long.
It's long.
Yeah.
It's like 96 feet
Yeah.
or something. like
Yeah,
that.
and it's maybe 10 or 12 feet wide. And then you have a base around it.
Yeah.
And then we make it handicap accessible, so we have our movable. And then you have the benches, and then you have the scoring. It's really, it's, you know, we've done 3 bocce courts at various centers that we worked on. We've also built maybe 5 or 6 pickleball courts.
So one thing I did notice, just coming back down to the first floor for a second, that the storage for the multi-purpose room, got shrunk a bit.
Because we have
The one over here.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
have two pretty good, bigger than most of our centers.
Right. I'm thinking,
Which can be a little bit difficult with a door in that. You can put a door in there, so you would have
You're gonna
need
lose-
access for the door.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Comparing it to that.
right.
Yeah,
I don't know, this one, I'm in particular comparing this one here to that one.
the door in the large one reduces that.
Yeah,
When you add the door to this
well, we
one,
went from
that
132.
reduces that. a lot.
Oh, no,
When
yeah,
you add that door, that's gonna reduce that.
well, it's not
because you
gonna
have-
reduce it.
Well, you have to have access to the door.
Door swing.
Although,
I-
yeah.
No, I understand, but 90% of the time, tables and chairs that are not, that we own in order to have our big gatherings are gonna be stacked
Yeah.
in, what
Front of
is
that
this?
door.
Yeah.
Room 116, yeah, they're not, I'm not intending to use that door on a day-to-day basis. But what I'm
Doesn't
saying is
matter,
if I,
They go over space. You leave in that corner, or wherever they put the.
No,
Well, if you never open the door,
That's
What's
what
the
I'm
point of the door?
therefore, why do the?
um,
Yeah, that's right.
Because-
We'll put the door in.
in case you,
It's $1,500. It's not a big deal.
in case you wanted to be able to access it
Move
for.
all the tables out of the way and
Right,
get through the door.
Right, so I'm saying like if you needed to be, and I was more thinking like, what if I need to store something else and the medical loaning isn't taking up the whole space, I can push that way instead of having to go take stuff out and around and go back in.
Yeah.
So,
You still need access to the door, so.
yeah. But my main question was about room 114, was the smaller storage room, because it went from 132 square feet down to 91 square feet.
Yeah, that got, because it got pushed over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
so-
we
Because
readjust.
it didn't have the bathroom over here before.
Right.
Yeah.
You
What
can go
I
underneath the
anticipate-
stair.
It is underneath the stair. Well, you
Yeah,
can
but
get a
you
little
can go
bit extra.
more.
underneath
You can add more underneath the stairs.
So, well, the reason I'm asking is I just want to make sure what I was anticipating leaving that space for is for all the fitness classes that will be happening down there, they're going to need a certain amount of fitness equipment
Mhm.
in addition to the equipment that's upstairs. So I'm gonna need to be able to hold like 20 yoga balls in there,
Yeah, you can-
hand
you
weights.
can
for
add that.
20
training.
yoga balls?
That's what I'm saying, like they can rack up to the ceiling. But I just want to
That's a lot.
I just want to make sure that
We'll
that
add,
space.
we'll add that to it. We can add that to
That's
it.
a lot.
We, he
Think
just
of
doesn't
the volume.
show it.
Could you have the yoga balls and racks around the room itself? You know, up towards the ceiling so that the balls are stored.
Yeah, it's messy.
No, it's gonna
It's
look like a gym.
messy.
Yeah,
You don't
you're not
really-
OCD enough.
So, I mean.
But we have enough room in
On
there.
a day-to-day basis, you
Yeah.
could, but typically those yoga balls are stored in like PVC piping.
Yeah.
Stored like a storage
they're-
rack, like a lightweight kind of thing. So if you're having a nice event, well. With the disc, when they're one layer, but when they go up multi-layers, right, then you start getting into that structured thing.
Hmm.
So you'd wanna, you would, I mean,
There's not
I
much
would
height
resist
here.
my urge to be
You're not
OCD
gonna
about
get
it on a
much
day-to-day
One,
basis,
two,
but once
three,
you go to
four,
have an
5,
event,
6, 7, 8.
you'd wanna be able to put them
Eight.
all away.
To put it-
I can stick a lot of yoga.
There's
balls
4
on
feet,
it.
there's 4 feet.
There's a lot of yoga
There's
balls.
four feet
This
there.
is the old.
And this should
Sorry,
be a double.
which
bed.
one?
Square it out. Dan. Can we just see where to cover what she's talking about, see where the folding petition goes in, there's a, I don't know, it's a 3-foot punch out there or something like that on the side. Can't you just run that wall across and bring the storage room out, run that line across, pick up another 3 feet?
Where are you?
Where, what?
That storage, see the, where the folding petition goes down right here, Just running
Yeah,
across
it's-
here, they'll
it's-
move the storage room out.
Oh, so, yeah, so this
Bring the
would
door
become,
in instead of
this
out.
right now is a
Same.
oh bump here. That gets really complicated because now you're looking at a 2 story space.
No.
No, no.
You're
Yeah, right
increasing the
here.
Size of the
Yeah,
room,
if you're increasing the size of the room, you gotta increase that all the way up.
I know it.
Exactly.
So that-
20
So what
that's the
happens up
22
here?
foot
Because
high
otherwise
wall,
you'll leave a
right?
shell.
24 feet high.
Yeah, 24
Okay,
feet
that's what I'm
high.
Curious about that.
Yeah.
Is that wall treated special because of fire?
This-
no, No, but it's 20.
Currently, there's a glass on the second floor that would look
Yeah,
into the
look down,
multi-purpose
yeah.
room. That would,
The whole thing. It's big.
At 91 square
This
feet.
room is so big, you should be able to build another.
But we're gonna push it into all that, yeah.
You put it
We'll push it in there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Also,
20.
there's gonna be some, coat closets and things, and not, they're called thick walls
Yeah.
for coats.
Yeah.
We just haven't really developed.
Okay.
Got a little bit of that, that's true, but over here, this wall, we'll get those.
Way out to the second.
Yeah, coat
Think of
closets.
those.
Yep, but yeah, no, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
With glass.
I'll calculate how much space that's gonna be.
Yeah, we can give you some more, he'll cut a section to see if you have enough room to get.
Well, I'll figure out how much,
Stack
how
four
much
yoga
all your
balls.
ball costs.
Right.
and how much it
Okay.
stacks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't want a tight space. It could be a staff only space. I just want to make sure that
Oh, there are.
I can get,
Most definitely step one.
We can get you 4.5 feet.
Oh,
And
right
besides,
now?
it's gonna be closed off anyhow.
No, that's you get 4.5 feet from this point. About here, it's about
6 or 7 feet,
okay,
6 feet.
You're at about 8 in the
You got a whole-
structure,
yeah.
8 feet for the
We'll cut a
platform. and
section through
structure.
that and take a look at it. That's a
Okay.
good point.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, where's that? That's first floor, right?
Right.
I got your heated sidewalk in
That's a good one.
I'll get you some quotes too,
Yeah. Okay, an area.
just to,
there. You
just,
sell that stuff, huh?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
But just for numbers, I think it's for safety wise, I think, and for maintenance, you know. Don't have to worry about the guy showing up or something to show the walkway or whatever, it's,
Mhm.
if you got a function going on, it's already done.
Other thoughts about that? Updated floor plans?
No, it looks good.
How about the image of the building? Because we're working now on, because we work in Revit, this is all modeled, three-dimensional. And we're working, oops. is that
Sorry,
me?
no, you're good.
We're working on trying to come up with a partie, if you will, of what it looks like. And, you've seen Groton, which is more contemporary. Wilbraham's a little more traditional. Also, even though if you did gables, we could still make it look, rather than doing it clapboard and shingles and things, we could do it in panels that look a lot more contemporary, smoother, less. I really think if we're out in the boonies like Bishop, we could do almost anything down in. Okay. Some of us agree to
Most of it are
that.
boom.
Yeah, and,
I've seen the boonies and
yeah.
Bishop ain't it.
Yeah, my house is, I live in the middle of nowhere. But, you know, to give you an idea that we'd like to get a sense of more New England or New England contemporary or very contemporary.
Do we, and, I mean, do we want something, like a brick looking exterior similar to town hall, or do we want like a wood?
No brick.
No.
No brick,
No brick,
can't afford it, not even remote, not even.
not even looking like brick, but
No.
no.
No,
No.
I love the design for, North Andover and was it Wilbraham that was very similar to those two?
Yeah,
They looked residential,
Yeah.
but they were very welcoming and very, you know, when you went in, they had a really warm, welcoming, homey feeling.
well, there's scale too. One thing, by having sheds around it, it's scaled to us human size, you know, so scale is a big part of it. How we work out your walking track that goes around or how you do the entrance scale is a big part of it. So you come in, it looks, I always, we did a project in Lexington, Kentucky, extremely modern. Steel galvanized screens and big walls of stone, and the seniors didn't really want that, but the town and the lead architect down there wanted to make that statement. I think it's about being published rather than being practical in terms of scale and what we all feel comfortable around.
Yeah.
And in New England, we're comfortable with gabled houses and front doors that are not 10-foot doors, but 7 or 6-8 doors. So I like the idea of a little more traditional, might be my age. I mean, I've done very modern things and
Well, we visited Sudbury, but to me, it seemed very cold. It was just,
They were stuck with a different concept now. They had a building. they-
well, also that architect does a lot of that. I mean, I know them,
Yeah.
I'm friends with them.
it was
I know
just,
what they do.
it wasn't pleasant. You felt
Yeah.
like you're going into a public building or, it
Yeah,
wasn't.
it's not,
very-
it's institutional.
Yeah.
And the one thing we do is we bring in wood into the scene. We've worked it out, so it's not really an expensive item, but we do wainscoting because
Oh,
the
it's beautiful ceilings.
yeah, well, yeah, I like the covered ceiling. Also, it has a lot to do with sound.
Yes.
It helps attenuate the sound, and especially in the public areas where it's really busy.
Right.
Also, wainscoting, we sneak in basically a handrail without looking like a handrail. If you're walking along a hallway or along a corridor or something, and you don't have good balance, you can hold on to that, but it doesn't look like a nursing home.
Yeah.
So that's, and the wainscoting is a sneaky way of getting that in. there.
Yeah. So it was very welcoming, very homey.
I thought that Groton has obviously has a very contemporary look to it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm inclined more towards traditional, the kind of
Yeah.
view.
almost all of our clients ask for that, but I wanna give you the option because I actually like some of the things that Abacus does. But they did one building that looks a lot like what we do. It's gabled and things, but they use less clapboard and shingles and more what we call panel systems. If you go to Holyoke, we did that in Holyoke, where it's a very large center. It's about 28,000 square feet. And we designed it to look a lot more like, there used to be a school on the site that burned down. And we picked up the whole, it had gabled roofs and everything, but we made the panels look like they were brick. But they were not brick. They didn't look like brick, but they were, and a lot of the seniors came in and said, feels a lot like the school we used to go to. And we said, success. We didn't say it was, but they felt it by being in it. So, and if you'll see that on our website, by the way, you can see that building.
That's what I was thinking when you're talking about this in really abstract terms.
Yeah.
And if you have examples for us.
Yeah, we'll model it. We'll send you some images of other buildings that are done like that.
Yeah.
Including Holyoke, which is more of a panel system versus clapboards and shingles and what have you.
Right.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful.
I liked the exterior of Wilbraham the best, very
Yeah.
similar to North Andover, but North Andover had all
It's
the
all white.
fancy, right, but they had a lot of fancy decorative shingle shapes in
Yeah,
there
they have the
too.
same thing in Wilbraham, but it's
Is
painted
it?
differently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It didn't, maybe it's because
it's all
you
white. and
stand
it's-
so much closer to the shingles in North Andover than you do in Wilbraham, like on the
Well,
approach.
in North
Maybe it's more
Andover,
noticeable that
because
way.
it's white, the sunlight accentuates the shadows.
Okay, gotcha.
And I always wanted to do a white building. So we did it there. And I really like it because what it shows is the texture of the building in terms of light.
Mhm.
Whereas Wilbraham
Beautiful blue.
does it in terms of color.
Yeah.
And the shadow lines are not as obvious because because the color absorbs the light. And the same with Long Meadow. Long Meadow is more of a green. In fact, it matches my house.
I got a comment.
So,
Um, I thought one of the reasons that we bought Cat, and it was because we saw some of the buildings that they built, and we liked the whole concept of the design. We're definitely not gonna go with the Sudbury look, we can just forget about that. In Groton, it's a smaller building, it's a contemporary look, I think it might even have a flat roof.
it is, it's all flat.
We're not gonna do that here, because your equipment is up in the third floor.
Yeah, which is a great way of
The whole
hiding it.
deal, what impressed me about, one of the things that impressed me about the building was the fact that the mechanical systems were hidden under the gables. You push that in your interview, you pushed it
Yeah.
to, so to me, it defaults back to a New England look with the gables and, the same kind of concept that we saw in other buildings that you did like similar to.
Gee, I'm beginning to like you more. Oh, sorry.
Well, at least she's got one person.
Yeah, I'm bored. No, but I happen to like the New England look, and we have not always done it, but I'll show you. Holyoke was different because it was a former school site. And they really liked the old school, and it was big enough to mimic it. We're not so huge. And I think the scale, what you're suggesting, the gables and the sheds bring the scale down, and it's comfortable, and inside is comfortable.
When we talk about clappers, are you using, what's that?
Hardy, we use Hardy, yeah. Cement
Everybody's
board.
using that.
There are lots of different people make it now, but
Yeah.
Hardy is and the trim work we used to use AZAC, but it expands and contracts dramatically. And the joints open up and close. There's a new product. It's now called True something. It's Borel.
True.
It's a composite, poly ash composite.
Mhm.
It doesn't expand and contract. It doesn't absorb moisture. You paint it and you forget about it for 25, 30
Yes,
years.
that's what I'm going to get to the point that Dennis is making. We're trying to build a building that's gonna last for 50
Yeah.
years with a minimum amount of maintenance. And I did want to backtrack before I forget it, sorry. To the green building question that you had. You guys, some of us understand that the building code just changed as of July 1st, right? And that
Yeah.
standards just went way up on the insulation side. I
Yeah,
think your buildings comply anyway,
they exceeded.
right? So
Yeah.
we're gonna get a green building no matter what, because the code and the time has.
It's a
gone up.
stretch code, yeah.
Stretch code even has
Yeah.
gone up.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a top notch insulation and building.
And VRF is our go-to thing. It's much more efficient.
Yeah.
And also by adding in the solar lights, the solar tubes, it reduces the amount of electricity used for lighting, even though now we're all LED, which is really, really, it's amazing. I'm old enough, like most of us, I went from incandescent to CFLs, fluorescent, to now LEDs. And I've seen my electrical bill go down, even though the rates are going up. It's just dramatic. So this whole building is LEDs. And because of the new codes, the rooms have sensors in them that if it's bright daylight, the perimeter lights dim down, so you're not using energy to light those. And because the multi-purpose room, we really like these large solar tubes. You really don't have to turn the lights.
Have you gotten any feedback on the acoustic qualities within the building and the effect that, to Carolyn's point about the glass, does increasing amounts of internal glass make it less?
Well,
because one of the things that I run into in my personal life and I've run into here is being able to comfortably hear the conversation. Older people obviously have hearing deficits.
This is one of the worst rooms in the business.
Yes, absolutely.
Hard ceiling,
Right.
hard walls.
So I guess the question is, are the buildings more naturally acoustically friendly for the people who are going to be using them? And
That's all we
the
care
different-
about.
Uh,
High frequency sound is a big problem for elders, for hearing, especially with a large group. So many years ago, we did a project in Leicester. And the multi-purpose room, we used the standard tiles They're we call them NRC, noise reduction coefficient. They're like an office building at 0.6. We went into that room and had a VCT floor, 0.6 ceiling, and even though we angled everything in order to deal with acoustics, it was so noisy that we went back and did some research. At that time, we started using an imported tile. Now they make it in the US. It's got a 0.95 in RC, which is really high. And you wouldn't believe the difference. So the multi-purpose room, the reason why we have a sloped ceiling is my professor in school was the founder of modern acoustics, both Brannick and Newman. And we learned very quickly.
That's what my brother worked.
What, really?
My brother retired from
Yeah.
BBN.
Well, Bob Brennan, he was one of my professors. We learned very quickly that square rooms with hard surfaces are extremely noisy. And the number one problem for older adults is high frequency background noise. So what we do is we use this NRC 0.95 in our ceilings. In the hallways where it's really busy, we do the coffered parts. And what happens is it reduces that reflection. And we do our hallways in carpet. If you go to Ludlow, all the hallways and all the floors are hard. And the hallways, if you go down that hallway with a busy crowd, it is so noisy, besides being dangerous. When you fall on ceramic, it's a much more dangerous thing. So we carpet and we do acoustical ceilings. And in the multi-purpose room, we put, help me out.
Acoustical
Panels.
Yeah.
Up on the walls, on the high walls. And it changes dramatically the high frequency. You can't get rid of the very low frequency bass stuff is very hard to get rid of. The other thing we do is that we highly recommend a steel building with concrete decks, because when you have plywood ceiling floors and ceilings underneath it, if it's really active upstairs, you hear it downstairs. So those buildings that you've seen, you probably hear that here, I don't know. So those buildings at Walpole, Wellesley, Wilbraham, and Longmeadow, all those are steel buildings. And it's a little bit more expensive, but if you're going 50, 60 years, it's all the difference in the world. And we don't use VCT. We use linoleum in the multi-purpose room. That's a sound absorbing material. They now have a brand new material out made by the flooring guys that just came in the top term, Ultra. They have an acoustic flooring material now that absorbs sound. And sound is so important, and we work very hard at that. So I'm sorry.
No, that's good to.
I get very concerned.
Yeah.
Shut me up now. It's time to go home.
So anything else for any other questions, comments about what we've done then?
I have a question that's probably not on the agenda, but I'm gonna probably keep asking John and Dan about the contract. Is there anything that we're doing so far that is outside of this consulting contract that we had with you guys? Or we could write on what you ever expect or anything different?
We can show you what we normally do.
I mean, I'm talking about the contract we're doing right now.
Yeah, or you can double it if you like.
No, I'm trying to make sure that we stay within it.
Yeah, you're well within it. We're very happy with the contract. It's completely reasonable. I think I actually wrote you back saying, who wrote that? I think you guys said you did. Yeah, that's good, because if you use KPF, I'm not a big fan of them. They do all kinds of things that makes life miserable for everybody. Good contracts are good for the consultant, and they're good for the client. Bad contracts are bad contracts, and it causes an incredible amount of grief. So we're all for a good basic contract, and we've been very successful in those. And we can show you all the ones we've ever signed, and you can adjust yours to reflect that. But right now, as far as this one goes,
Okay, thank you.
we're doing great. The one issue is that if we discovered major issues in our digging of holes, we might have to bring in a geotechnical. We suggested that there might, I think in this contract, maybe carry
Yeah,
some
we'll
money.
go down all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't expect that. But in the end, when we do if we work with you, if we get the final design.
Yeah.
We'd have our geotechnical engineer involved with our civil. And because it's extremely important to make sure that our budget reflects the site we're working on. We don't want special, we find out we have organic material down 8 feet down, that's would be a big deal. So, and that, I think will come out, although I must say, Dan V said the farthest he could reach down was 9. We gotta upgrade your backhoe to 12.
Would
9
it-
feet's
I
okay.
mean, would it be better if we rented a backhoe that could go down to 12?
Well, here's what will happen. It's a good point. I think we're happy with the 8 to 9 feet. Will help us with water table and things like that. When we do in the final design, we're gonna do borings.
Mhm.
And we're gonna go down to refusal or at least 30 feet. So they'll bore down, we'll look at what comes up, and refusal is ledge. The 8 to 9 feet will tell us whether the site's filled with boulders. I mean, I know this contractor we're working with was doing a big project for a public safety facility in Massachusetts. And the site was filled with boulders, and for some reason, the architect civil engineer didn't pick up on it. It was a $2 million fix.
Oh, geez.
You don't want to do that. That's why we dig lots of holes. Okay,
All right.
I'm sorry, I've gone on
Oh,
too
no,
long.
you're,
Wrap us up.
so we're at a little over 2 hours now, and we haven't even made it to the public engagement plan, so. Can I get a sense of the room here? Would you like to table public engagement plan?
Make most of the
Schedule-
table the public.
Second.
So we could have a next. We could have a next meeting fairly quickly, with just that on the agenda when everybody is fresh, but discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, how quickly do we need to have this plan? I mean, if we're gonna bring it to town meeting in the fall, we have a lot to do yet. And so,
We do want to introduce the community to the project once you have we have a sense of closure, I think, on floor planning. We'll put together. Hopefully, maybe within a week, we could have the model that we could send out to you to distribute to let people comment on. And then I think it's really, you're right, we need to get it. We need more of you involved in this process.
Because I think we're gonna need to have a couple of big final ones, but I think we want to be starting to put some more of this information out even before it's fully final, because we're getting close there.
But I think that, and I don't have a strength. To what extent do we need to definitively lock down the site before, or are we going to ask for public input on the site selection? You know, within those two, or do we lock down the site and then?
I was talking more, but that's the whole public engagement plan meeting we need to have. It's not just when are we gonna schedule them? It's how are we going to do that? What is the best, like, how much can we do now? How much do we do without a cost estimate? How much do we do with a cost
I
estimate? How much
highly
do we break-
recommend one site. You
So-
open up the sites to the community and you're gonna be all over the
I
map.
agree with you 100%.
I agree too.
So,
And
and that's.
we
really
need to
our
decide.
charge. Right, I think that's really the charge of this committee is to recommend a site to the select board and therefore to the community. So, but I think we could have a whole meeting just on that topic. So is everybody okay with
So
that?
what,
Okay,
just for clarification, you're talking about having a meeting just for us to develop how you want to execute the plan,
right,
basically, the
Yes.
components of the plan and how you want to execute it.
yes,
Not like, these are the dates we're gonna do it.
correct,
But the scope of the plan, and
Scope of
then
the plan.
later on, we'll create the dates that you want to go out to the community.
right, yep,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
And I highly recommend if you can, think about a community-wide survey. You just ask, it's part of your PR thing, informing what's going on.
So in the two small scale public outreach that I've done thus far, which was ended up being very small here in the senior center and one at a 55+ community here in town. I modified the survey we had created from the community center survey and just preliminarily put it out, but I think you're
We
right.
can
We
give
need to do a
Give you
whole-
a sample one too
Yeah.
that we've done 4 or 5 of them.
It was
And you can-
very successful, the one in the 55 plus community. They loved it. They felt it was very well presented and a lot of information. They were very excited about it, you know.
Good, okay.
Public input.
So then, all right, so then there was a motion and there was a second for the tabling. All in favor? My chair says aye. Okay, table for next time. All right, that brings us to public input. I just want to first apologize to Mr. Frank Maxon because he gave me some public input for the last meeting and I forgot to read it. So I'm gonna let his letter go first, which is to the Ayer Senior Center Building Committee from Frank Maxon. It can be important for those of us who don't walk well to have no curbs to step up and down to enter the building.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank Maxon. So,
And we will make sure that.
okay.
I don't want to throw numbers out too quickly, but I do want to mention that all in Wilbraham, hard costs, not soft costs, $760 a square foot. All right, and soft costs generally run, and soft costs includes furnishings. All right, architectural fees, bidding fees, they run around 15%, give or take. And we
15% of,
the hard costs. And on top of that, we highly recommend, because it's new construction, if it's renovation, we push 7.5% to 10% contingency. New construction, we recommend a 5%. But our
5% for what?
of hard contingency for unknown situations, and they occur, by the way.
That comes out.
In the past, we rarely have found anybody going beyond 1%. But we carry that, if you don't budget for it, you don't want to have to go back and ask for more. It's better to give money back than it is to ask for more. So we like to be conservative at the start, but as the project proceeds, 2 things are happening. Number one, construction costs have been running at around 25% a year going up. They're leveling off considerably. And I believe by the time this one finds itself out on the street, it will be flat. That's my crystal ball. Remember what that is. I buy stocks, they always go down. But in this case, I would say that the way things are heading financially in the country, 2 things will happen. Number one is interest rates will come down. And number 2, construction costs are leveling out. And we'll know more about that probably in the next November 8th.
I won't-
Is there any-
$7 million.
Is there any, there-
7 million?
no, I don't think we're ready to, I don't think
I'm
we're
not-
ready to throw
I'm not-
out costs.
I'm not putting numbers out.
$760 a square foot times 9,000 square feet.
No,
No, it's 15,000,
It's
14,000.
14,000 square feet, but I don't think.
But don't,
Yeah.
it's not given, because my cost estimator is going to,
Way more.
he's gonna beat me up anyhow. He'll probably say, yeah, but I want to be very cautious up front.
Yeah.
And then the best thing that happens in my business is it comes in less than what we think it is. But if you don't plan for where we are right now, it's nothing worse than going in and saying, oh, it's only an $8 million project. You know, we all know that that's not going to be the case. So we want to be very careful.
do we want to get? to
I would say,
public input?
I would say public input, yes.
I just want to make a comment about a meeting. You had a meeting with the 55 and over, and you had the meeting here.
And I think it has to be a public meeting so that everybody can attend it from the town of Ayer. And not
There
just,
will be one.
I agree that, yeah, that is
not just, everybody has to be able to
absolutely,
attend.
absolutely. This was just sort of
And it
the,
can't be like at 6 o'clock at night either, because people don't get home from work until 5 or 6. So it's gotta be like a 7 o'clock meeting.
there will
Do you have a
be,
suggestion as to where you think it would be, get the best audience? You know, where in town would the meeting tend to attract more people?
I wish I could say the town hall, I don't think so.
No, I don't.
We got a big turnout at the high school.
Yeah, sorry.
We got a big turnout at the high school, in 2018, 2019,
Oh, I
when we
remember
first
going.
started, remember
Yes, I
that?
remember that one.
We had a big turnout.
Yeah, it was.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
central location.
Yeah. We weren't in the auditorium, we were right in the
Right in
dining
the-
room, right in
Kind
the,
of the
yeah,
entrance
right
way.
in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
When that meeting happened.
And Pauline is, I think, looking to get your. opinion.
oh, okay. Hi, Pauline, go ahead. I think
Good
you're muted.
evening. I'm waiting for public input, so you continue on your conversation.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Are we on public? I'm sorry, are we on public? I can't hear you very well.
Okay.
We can hear you really well.
Perfect. All right. Couple of things, really, really quick. With respect to the resignation of, I think it was David Grubb, Katie, that you said earlier.
Correct.
His official resignation should go to the town clerk, Susan Copeland.
Yep.
Okay. With respect to the Groton Harvard Road exit and the transfer station, nobody asked, and I didn't see it on the documents, but how are those two exits juxtaposed? Are they far enough apart? Because I have a very difficult time exiting the transfer station every Sunday, so I always go right. And I don't know how close the two of those are to each other. And I don't expect an answer now. I just wanted to share that with you.
Good point.
It's on the other side of the road somewhere.
I think it's down here somewhere.
That's on the.
No,
We'll
first that
we'll locate that.
it's
That's a
farther
good point.
past,
We
yeah.
will locate that access to the transfer station.
Yeah, I
See how-
couldn't see it on the shared documents. And I looked earlier today and I didn't see it, so I just want to throw that out there. It's a very busy intersection for the transfer station on weekends. Probably not so much during the week because it's only open Wednesday, but I just thought I would share that. And then the last thing I have for you, Katie, the parking versus the situation of the building. I share everybody else's concerns. I think the building should be forefront and the parking in the back, especially on Groton Harvard Road, to the extent that can happen. I have a south-facing house. I love it for the heat that I get in the winter. Hate it for the heat I get in the summer. But I think if the parking could be behind the building, it would just lend so much more, what do I want to say, attraction to the site itself. And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have public
Thank
input.
you all.
Tomorrow, we're going to have our next meeting, I think this will be our third meeting of the Friends of the COA at 10 o'clock in the morning, right here.
Oops.
Barbara?
Yeah, back again. I agree with what Pauline's saying. That the building should be in the front on the street and the parking in the back.
Yep. Good point.
As a planning board representative, are there codes or anything that are relevant for that, or is it just a matter of personal preference or aesthetic?
I think Catlin has shown us many reasons why the parking should be in front, and it's demonstrated by the plan, because you can drive into the front of the building and drop people off, so you'd have enough room at least to make a turn off in the front, and then you'd have to go around, and I guess it would be a question of a civil engineer and Catlin working out the whole drawing.
Yeah, and the other issue, and I think it's a good point that Pauline brought up, it's really important to have the sun entering the building from the south. And if we turn it around, then the sun is on the entry of the building and not where the activities are in the building in terms of outdoor space and sun and light coming into the activity rooms. So it is an interesting point. We try very hard to get the public spaces in the building facing south. And that's where, and especially the outdoor patio area, because in New England, if you're on the north side, you're shoveling the ice out of the way in May rather than having the sun heating it up. So, I mean, those are good points, and we certainly
So
tried to address that.
can you make explicit for me, so the desire to have the main entrance to the building be on the south side,
No,
No, north
north side, in order to
get all the activities on the south side of the building.
and that makes it difficult to put the parking behind the building because
Because now the building is facing, your entrance to the parking will be on the south side, where the building sits on that site versus on the north side. We can look at it.
So if you kept the building like this.
Yeah.
Where it's facing south,
Yeah.
right? But you put the parking lot here.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
you're
but-
trying to enter into the meeting room.
Or you
Into
turn the whole building
But
around.
once you turn
Yeah,
the
then you-
whole, or you have to walk around the whole building to come in on this side. And then once you flip the building around like this,
Yeah.
to have the parking lot come in this way. Now you've got all of these spaces that are meant to be on the south side are now on the north side.
I
So
see.
you've either got to
So
enter
you
the
flip
building
it
from the
around
wrong
this-
side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that becomes north and this is south,
So you wouldn't want the back of the building
facing north.
You would not want that.
You want
You
it
don't
facing
want
south.
the building facing
That's where all the light is and all the outdoor activity space.
And that worked really well on the buildings that you designed that we went to
Yeah,
visit.
except for North Andover.
That was
It's
because
fabulous,
that's like.
because we didn't have the room on the site.
Yeah.
I have a 2-hour drive, he has a 2-hour drive.
Yep.
And we love you guys, we'd love to stay another couple hours.
Next meeting, we have to set up next meeting.
Any other?
You guys-
You set up next
Yeah.
meeting.
Absolutely.
Sooner than later.
It's a long way to get there.
Yeah.
Scale drawing, right?
Yeah, so the scale is.
That's
what
they said next week. That's the scale on this drawing.
Yeah.
Or that the following.
Yeah, it's on the scale at this size.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
We're gonna be taking.
Hey, do you know the names of the back of it?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
I do like you.
okay. So it looks,
good.
so it looks.
Good to see you again, John.
So sure about you, but.
Next week.
I'm
Or
very
the week after, the soil samples will be done.
You and me
And then
both.
are those,
I know.
is the results that you
life
wanna know, like sort of immediately evident, or is there time to generate a report?
Yeah, it's a little water and stuff like that, but.
Okay. So I think a meeting 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks plus for
Yeah.
time for that would be good for continuing this site work discussion. The question is, do you wanna have a meeting where we flip the agenda? Where we start with the public engagement plan? Do you wanna boot the public engagement plan down a little further, or we can have a meeting next week to talk public engagement plan?
Sooner the better on public engagement.
I think so too.
Yeah, well. One meeting for the public engagement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and soon, in a week.
Okay, so could we do it Monday? Actually, could we do it Monday or Tuesday next week? Otherwise, I will just have to join remotely, which means you guys will have to. Well, or I could get.
Can we
What
do
is
it,
the day?
can we do it during the afternoon, during the, like, Monday afternoon?
I mean,
Or
we
do we
have
want,
done,
do we want it in the evening necessarily? or-
we've done all of these meetings in in the evening so far. I don't think every meeting has to be in the evening. But I'm just acknowledging. I think it's up to you guys.
Well, final comments, and Jim Scale Board should definitely be at any meeting involved with soils, but he doesn't have to be at any meeting involved with public engagement.
Right.
So whatever works for, I guess.
So we really
other folks
can't
in the
do
public
it.
engagement.
We can't do it this week because we don't have the 48, like, we can't do it Friday because we really don't have the 48 hours notice.
I can't do Tuesday. Can we do it either Monday afternoon or Wednesday, the 31st?
So Monday works for me. The 31st, I am driving to Buffalo.
Monday is what's the date?
Monday's the 29th.
Okay,
Are you available?
my daughter's first birthday.
Well, you don't have to be here for that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are absolved from being.
I'll miss that.
Yeah, definitely.
So 29, 6 o'clock?
Does the 29th work?
Can you do it during the day at all?
Yeah, what time?
Well, do we want, I mean, this is, do we want?
Are we gonna have enough stuff to talk about on by the 29th? Dan?
Well, we were talking about just the public engagement,
Okay.
Public engagement.
public engagement. That would be a single, what do they call it? A single agenda meeting or
Maybe a
whatever.
single agenda meeting.
Yeah.
And do we want, so we want it posted?
So I'd have to
I
post
don't
it
have a
tomorrow.
strong, right, I don't have it, I mean, 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 6, or do we want to try to get more people there? What's that?
If we do it here during the day, I would probably prefer,
Town hall.
or you can do it at town hall, sorry.
You don't know what the schedule is down there.
I don't have town halls scheduled, but here I would prefer it be
In the
1 o'clock or later, just from space usage point of view. Let me just,
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm just trying to wonder, do we want to try to get as much of the public here as we can, or is it?
no, I don't think, no, the idea is not. The idea is not the public input.
Yeah,
or the
we're
public-
planning
the public-
how we're going
planning
to
the
get.
public engagement.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, Monday, I just wanted to grab the calendar. Monday afternoon here is fine, or we can see if there's space at the town hall.
So what time? 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock?
4 o'clock, 5 o'clock? I can do any of them.
Still 1 o'clock.
Huh?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, okay.
Can you make it? You have to ask Betsy, you're available.
Okay.
You guys set up what's best for you, I'll figure it out.
We're thinking half an hour maybe?
Probably take an hour.
It's kind of like an hour.
So, I mean, I think it depends how prepared everybody comes with their ideas and research that they've done, for it. I think it definitely doesn't need to be a 2-hour meeting.
So Monday, the 29th at 1 here or town hall? Did we say?
Since I don't know the town hall schedule, I can commit that this room is available. If you would prefer it be at town hall, I can check and see and we could change it there, but.
Here?
Whenever you post, you have to know by the time you post it. That's-
Right, yeah.
And I don't care.
All right. So
Why don't we
here's
just stay here then?
Yeah, okay,
Here.
all right.
Okay.
Alrighty, wonderful to have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and we are adjourned at 8:36 PM.